All right, let's start. How do I remove this? Oh, remove. What did I do?
Oh, world's
nope.
best entrance.
Okay. Okay, where are we? There we go.
There you are.
Okay, sorry. There we go.
Hi.
All right, we figured it out.
Hi,
We just had a
everybody.
boomer moment. Welcome, everyone. This is the AP DOJO. My name is Ben Dunn. I'm the AP Sensei, founder of Antarctic Press, creator of such comics as Ninja High School, Warrior Nun, Mighty Tiny, and Tomorrow Girl, a host of other books. And with me is my brother from another mother, Steve-O. Welcome,
Hello,
Steve-O.
Ben. It's really good to be here.
Absolutely. So, I usually don't like to shill stuff, but hey, I got a campaign going, so I have to do some shilling. And so right now I have a Kickstarter campaign going right now called Spy Bunnies, the Vatican Affair. It's a throwback to the swinging 60s where we had the era of super spies, evil criminal organizations, and the height of the Cold War. Oh, yes. Those were the good old days. Don't you think, Steve?
I think that's a lot of potential for sexy adventures. I'm trying to get my light on.
So the premise is that it's the Jet Setters Clubs is a little thing that's sort of like the Playboy Club that back in the 60s, but they're actually a front for a spy organization called Bunny. And they go out and save the world from nefarious plots, things like that. It's written by Batman and Punisher writer Chuck Dixon and is drawn by Erwin Petswa. So here's go ahead and show you a little preview of the campaign, so we'll see what I will show you in just a sec. Here we go. There it is. And so here it is right now. I'm at $3,000 with 25 days to go. Hopefully I'll get some backers during the live stream today. So do you want to take a look at the trailer, Steve?
Yes.
Let's share it with everybody.
The trailer's awesome. Well, there's no sound.
No sound?
No.
Are you not getting any sound?
No.
No, what the heck?
You could also probably full screen that too.
Okay, let's see here. All right.
Well,
full screen.
Click it in the frame of the trailer.
Hmm?
Within the frame of the trailer. Oh, you can't see where I'm pointing. At the bottom. Okay.
So I see it.
That full screen.
Right.
Hey. Okay.
All right. Can you see it? Can you hear it?
I can't hear it, but
okay, hold on.
Just tell me what's going on. So.
Can you hear it?
No.
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 Okay, what's going on here? Why is it?
Just narrate it.
Well, you got to hear it. The music is awesome. Why isn't the sound coming through? Oh, it could be that since I'm on the microphone, I have to share the.
Oh yeah. You have to try muting your microphone.
No, nothing.
No.
Okay. This is weird. Why isn't there any sound coming through?
Just play it now, and then we'll play later if you can figure it out while we're talking.
Maybe it's a Zoom audio device or iPhone microphone. Maybe that's it. Let me switch to iPhone microphone.
Are you on the iPhone or the computer?
Did you hear that?
I can barely hear it.
You can barely hear it, but you can hear it.
Yeah. It's kind of not playing.
We'll make it work.
All right.
You hear it?
No. Do you want me to just go kind of go dang 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 bang
Yeah.
bang 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 bang
Did you hear at least some of it?
I didn't hear anything. I just made my own music.
You didn't hear anything. Okay, this is weird. I've never heard this happen. It's so weird. But anyway,
if that recorded and if you hear the music, you're gonna look, Jason Caskey's here.
hello, Jason.
Even more Steve Ross. I have a fan.
Characters.
And I'm a fan of Jason's as well.
So here's some of the
Hi,
cover.
buddies. There's
By
Jason, the chasing and the dancing and the shooting and the girls and the spying.
Is the hardcover version, and here's some of the pages. This one, I'm thinking of making this one into a poster.
Mm-hmm.
You know, stretch go.
Yeah.
You know,
I forgot. Was this story to be continued at the end? Is this?
No. It actually has an ending. It's a 60-page graphic novel.
660?
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Okay, yeah, because it doesn't say that in the Kickstarter. So, you know what? I might actually upgrade and get the $25 paperback. So now I can't hear you.
Okay.
There you go.
You hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
All right. Okay, Dan.
So Joe Zatomi says, "Howdy, folks."
Hello. How's it going, Joe Zatomi?
Yeah. So Jason and Joe.
Okay. Well, that was a comedy of errors. That's for sure.
That's going to be on the classic reel when we
blooper reel.
The boomer blooper moments.
Blooper
It looks good. I only backed the digital copy, but I think I'm going to have to go back and get the paperback at least.
Well, welcome everyone. Finally, hopefully we won't have any more errors. So, as the headline was, we're going to talk about a lot of things today. What's going on in pop culture and comics? You know, just stuff in general. As we know, there's a little war going on in the Middle East. We'll try not to touch on that because we need some distraction, as they say.
Yeah.
You know, and all sorts of stuff is going on. You know, so we're not. We're going to try to avoid that if we can.
If you want politics, you can get it anywhere and everywhere else. Here's your little panacea of jokiness.
We're going to talk about comics. We're going to talk movies. We're going to talk all sorts of stuff. So the first thing that's on the agenda is the Dark Horse situation. Do you know anything about this, Steve-O?
So Yes, from what I understand, a larger company bought Dark Horse with the understanding that Mike Richardson was going to hang around and stay editing, and then they decided, we're going to go in another direction, and they fired him.
Yeah,
So
leave voluntarily, apparently, you
yeah,
know. And I actually watched a YouTube video with a little bit more information, you
hmm
know, and it's quite interesting. I'll try to remember what the guy said. I don't want to pull up his YouTube video.
yeah,
But basically, the um, uh, the situation was that it was bought by a company that buys other companies, for the most part,
right.
and uh, and that's how they make their money, And it was mostly, I won't say it's a Ponzi scheme but it sort of is.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
kept buying these companies and trying to make money off of it. And, they were flushed with cash. That someone there got the bright idea to go ahead and buy Dark. I'm trying to find out what the uh, name of the company. I think it's Middle Earth Enterprise. I think they bought the Lord of the Rings IP, if I recall. It's it's called the Embracer Group. Okay, it's a Swedish company called the Embracer Group, and Dark Horse is just part of their overall, company. But apparently, they haven't been doing so well, and as with any company that you're going to be running, you have to make profit, you have to make money,
hmm
and their business model of just you know acquiring other companies and just letting it, not not doing anything with it, has finally come home to roost. Apparently,
They might have
no.
figured out. They may have figured out that there isn't a huge market for that barbed wire reboot movie that they were hoping to do.
Well, okay, I don't. I think I've only met Mike Richardson once in my whole life. I think it was at a San Diego Comic Con. I remember when Antarctic Press was doing toys back in the mid '90s. One of the
Mm-hmm.
toys we're going to do was a flaming carrot.
Mm-hmm.
Actually did the prototype and everything else like that, but the market crashed, and it we decided to not produce the figure, and we sold the prototype to Dark Horse, and
Mm.
Dark Horse actually did produce the flaming carrot figure. Let me see if I can
Oh, so
find.
it's technically an AP prototype then behind that, huh?
Yes, the AP actually did the prototype of the flaming carrot. Let me see if I can find it. I know I have it here somewhere. But the thing is that they, of course, did actually produce the action figure. And my understanding, talking to Bob Burden, who's a very good friend of AP,
Mm-hmm.
and we're still trying to do some stuff with him. Hopefully, we'll be able to someday in the future. But we decided to let the prototype go, let Dark Horse produce it, and they produced it, which was great. It
Mm-hmm.
came out really nice, and uh, and I think Dark Horse also did the Flaming Carrot Omnibus also. But
Mm-hmm.
what does this mean? Okay, so let me go ahead and share the file.
Yes. What
And
does all mean, Sensei?
well, we're going to find out sooner. We're going to find out. Let's see if I can
Well,
pull.
while you're boomering around there, so I did meet them like I think it must have been very early San Diego Comic Con for them
Mm-hmm.
because I bought hi from Brizzle or Bristol, Simon Belmont. Simon's another guy. Simon's our friend from the UK, another friend from the UK, another 2000 AD fan. I could talk about 2000 AD instead of AP, because we are the British people. So, speaking of British people, while you're doing that, I will shill for Shaman Kane, David Broughton's new comic that's coming out in the next week or two, I believe.
Yeah, sure.
Uh, he's a intergalactic bounty hunter who hunts. I'm speaking in broad strokes. Oh, he's from Brazil. Okay, Simon's from Brazil.
All right. Well,
Uh, Yeah,
flaming
so
carrot.
he's an intergalactic bounty hunter, and there's a shaman Jane is like his female counterpart. And if you like Doctor Who, you like 2000 AD. If you like quirky British shows like Red Dwarf and Blake Seven, you will definitely love Shaman Kane. And these were originally printed in black and white in the UK, and so they've been colorized by Dave for the AP version of it. He's put a lot of
Mhm.
work into it, and it's it's a great series. You can go back and get the Planet Comics issues too. And
Mhm.
Rich Johnston recently gave him a bump, so we
Isn't he a
appreciate
fellow
that.
Brit? Isn't he a fellow Brit?
He's a fellow Brit.
There you go. They got to stick together, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So
So we
uh,
got to whatever a fellow countryman, as they say.
well,
So
Dave
here's the
definitely
flaming
said he'd like to come on. So maybe if there's a week when I can't make it or something, I'll have him step in.
So here's the flaming carrot figure. We actually did the advertisement for it, and we were actually going to produce it when the whole toy market crashed.
Mhm.
So that Bob Burden actually helped us design this figure. So it came out rather well. He did the artwork and everything else. So it was kind of
Mhm.
cool. So what does this mean for Dark Horse? If you were to predict the future, what do you think this means for Dark Horse, and what does it mean for the comic industry in general? There's been a lot of rumblings going on in the industry, not all of it good. You
Mhm.
know, it's people are becoming a little worrisome about the future of the
Mhm.
direct. And I actually read an interesting Reddit post about the direct market and how in manga and everything else like that. And it occurred to me that if you look at the situation with Dark Horse, what does Dark Horse actually have? That would make them, because I think Dark Horse was at one time very successful. I think they're one of the first indie comics that actually uh, one of the earliest indie comics to actually make movies out of their comic books. And I
Yeah.
like they were very successful with the mask, of course. They were very successful with. Well, what else? What else did they? Oh, of course they had a flop with barbed wire. You
Yeah.
know, and um, and they also did Doctor Giggles. Who remembers that one?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they
I
did
remember that.
a Dark
Yeah.
Horse comic. That was a Dark Horse comic.
Mhm.
So there was definitely they were definitely riding high on the whole Hollywood thing. But I think the mistake they made, well, not a mistake, I'm sure at the time, they did Star Wars when, the movies stopped being
Mhm.
produced. Yeah, and they pretty much kept the franchise alive. You
That
know,
franchise was dead after like a year after Return of the Jedi left theaters, and if there was any vapor trail left in the form of the Ewoks and Droids cartoons and those Ewok movies that they made, after that, there was like no Star Wars to be had anywhere. And those comics that they put out were really good. So I was really glad to have those.
well, let's welcome Simon Belmont from Brazil. I think
Brazil.
Brazil, I think he means to say. Unless there's a country called Brazil, which I'm not aware of.
No, he's from Bristol.
Oh, is he from Bristol?
Yes, he's a
Oh,
friend. He's in his attic, surrounded by Jerry Anderson toys.
I see. So
Yes.
welcome Massive Panda 87 and Drag Fang 3723. Welcome. Welcome
Oh,
to
by the
this.
way, Simon's providing our Airbnb for San Diego Comic Con, so be nice to him.
Oh, I intend to. I intend to. But anyway, so what does this mean for Dark Horse? I mean, Mike Richardson he was there at the founding of Dark Horse, so he's
Right.
not, he's not a unimportant figure, in the
No.
whole. What is the owner saying by firing him? I mean, it wasn't like he was retiring or he left on his own, or even he quit. He was fired,
Yeah.
and that is to me very troublesome, for the company because who's going to run it? who's going to run Dark Horse? Who's named as the interim?
I think they named a guy. It was like some young guy. It sounded like they were going to try to go more for like lifestyle stuff than comics. So you might see like a ghost statue or a because that is the problem with Dark Horse is that they like you were saying they tried to do that world's what did they call it world's greatest comic universe or something. So
Yeah,
Ghost
that's
X
owned by Dark Horse too, right?
Hardwire. So Dark Horse owned all those IPs for that universe that they tried
Well,
to create.
I'm not sure about that. I think the situation was that Dark Horse shared the IP with the creators because
Okay.
I know that Dark Horse was a very creator centric company. It
Right.
was all about creator rights that they would own what they created. So it's possible that Dark Horse doesn't 100% own anything. They may own partially some stuff, but like any comic book company, if anyone knows anything about comic book companies, you either own it or you don't. Okay,
Right.
and there's no middle ground. Okay, if you it could be that Dark Horse owns maybe partial rights to some of the things. I don't know what the situation is like for the mask or barbed wire, but
I'm,
if I
I'm
know anything about Hollywood, when you make a movie or something, you pretty much lost your rights.
right.
Okay.
Well, I would imagine that they could buy out like whatever creator and just say. So Massive Panda says, I heard Dark Horse Board was planning on installing some video game company guy at the top of the company, but I could be wrong.
Well, we
So,
can
yeah,
find.
that's kind of what I've heard too. So here's the thing. Well, like Dark Horse was kind of like they were kind of like the cool indie comic company. Well, not that AP isn't the cool indie comic company, but like I remember the first time I saw them at San Diego Comic Con, they were selling Boris the Bear was their big title. And that
Mhm.
was, for those of you who don't remember, basically the joke was he had like a Rambo bandana and a big machine gun, and he was a bear named Boris, and he just gunned down all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle ripoffs, like the adolescent black belt hamsters and or what was it, adolescent radioactive black belt hamsters and
Cold
the
blooded
kung
panda.
fu preteen dirty jean kung fu kangaroos and
Yeah,
all
yeah.
all those
Cold
ripoffs.
blooded chameleon commandos.
Yep, yep,
And things like the
yeah,
Cowboys and the Moo Mesa. You
yeah. Fish I
Biker
don't know if
Meister
we've done
Mars.
Fish Police, but anyway. Yeah, all those anthropomorphic ripoffs of Ninja Turtles. That all he did was gun them down. That was the joke. And
Mhm.
so they started off kind of like edgy, and it was a place where guys like Bob Burden could go, and um, they would bring stuff over from Europe that was kind of cool. And then they tried to do that connected universe for movies and TV shows and cartoons. And like you said, they were successful with the mask, but it was also like you all said, like a place where somebody could go with their creator-owned property. And then they came out with Aliens when Aliens wasn't the thing anymore. Star Wars when Star Wars wasn't the thing anymore. Um, Much later on, I think they were the ones who brought back Conan too. Like weren't they the first ones to get Conan, and then it went back to Marvel, and then now it's with Titan.
And Dark Horse had a pretty good instinct for picking up dead IPs and reviving them. You
Yeah,
know, they were doing pretty well with those, to be honest. I
yeah,
mean, I remember when Aliens came out, that was a big deal. Okay, it was like 1987 or 88 that they came out with those comics, and we were shocked at the time they pick up because the Alien movie had just come out. Like
yeah.
two or two ago, and that was now. Dr. Dragfang asks, so what's the head of Dark Horse being removed? Well, he was summarily fired from Dark Horse, and
Mhm,
this is a big deal because he's founder, one of the founders of Dark Horse. He's been there for over 40 years, you
mhm.
know, and so it was no small thing. And the thing about it was that he didn't retire, which would have been unsurprising because he's been there for 40. But fired, which is begs the question: why was he fired? It could they won't give a real explanation other than you know uh, if they had just said he was let go or forced him to retire, that'd been one thing. But they made it pretty public that he was fired. So that only led to why do you fire people to save money, okay? And or you don't get along with them, or a combination of both, And but most likely they're having money problems, and they figure that was the best way to save money, which I think is going to be a big mistake because
Well,
if you
that is a horrible look and a really bad PR for the company,
yeah.
because they could have just given him a little stipend. I don't know what it looked like from his end, but I mean maybe they could have given him a little stipend to stay on and be the face of the company like Stan Lee was, because everybody who our
Yeah,
age who's still into comics knows
well,
who he is.
usually in these instances, when your head of something steps down, okay, they usually have somebody else ready to take their place, and it's usually a transition. You
Right,
know, even with Bob Iger at Disney, he wasn't fired. They're making a peaceful transition, so to speak.
right,
You know, and but this wasn't the case. He was just out of the blue fired, from what I understand. And it wasn't an amicable parting, apparently.
right. Also, or they could have like said, okay, you're gonna be let go, but we're going to give you this stipend, and just we're going to say that you decided to make it look like you decided to step down, and
Mm.
then pretend like everything's hunky dory, and just quietly go off and retire into the sunset. But they didn't. Like everybody knows, like this guy got the hammer dropped on him. So it's like, um, Josie
Jose,
Holmes says, looking at Embracer Group's 2025 Q3 report, their core IPs did better than expected, with all others down 15 to 40%.
well,
And
what is
goes
the core
on to say,
IP?
what's that?
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
It's the third quarter report.
Yeah, I know, but what is their IP other than Lord of the Rings?
Well, I don't even know if it's that. So anyway, and then Joe goes on to say Dark Horse would be a potential place to farm IPs for licensing agreements, turn it into a licensing farm, much like how Hasbro has been doing with its IPs.
Well, that's the thing. What does Dark Horse actually own? See, that's
That's
what I'm wondering about. What IPs do Dark Horse actually own 100%? Now with AP, we own IPs 100%, so we can do
mhm,
what the company owns the IP, so we can do whatever we want. So there's value in AP because we actually own IPs that we've been successful with. Now
mhm.
granted, the only thing we've done was, and the only thing we didn't have that we created was Warrior Nun. But the fact that it started at Anarchy Press is definitely a plus. But as I was saying before, what does a Dark Horse actually own 100%? I mean, do
Right.
you know? I have no idea. I mean, even with the world's greatest, I mean, do they even own the mask anymore? I think whoever made the movie, what Universal, I think made the mask. Am I correct?
I don't know, but
I think they own the IP.
whatever studio it is probably owns a
Yeah,
chunk of that.
yeah.
Yeah.
They can do as many mask movies as they want. They don't have to involve Dark Horse at all.
Well, I mean, there's a process you can go through to like untangle some of these IPs if they're still like a part of it somewhere else in the world. But and like even with AP, you guys are friendly with most of your creators, even if they're not, even if they don't, even if AP doesn't actually own the IP. If somebody wanted Courageous Princess or something like that, you know who to contact to make that connection happen. So
Well, what does it
or
mean for?
Christy
What does it
Sanchez.
mean, but what does it mean for Dark Horse Comics? I mean, if you were the Embracer Group and you just fired the head
Hmm.
of Dark Horse Comics, okay, what does that portend? Okay, it's hard to envision that they'll continue to publish comics. I mean, if you were the Embracer, you just fired the head of your comic book company. You know, they're looking at if they own a bunch of IPs.
Yeah.
What's the reason for them to continue doing comics?
Well,
You know,
if Embracer Group owns a bunch of IPs and they want to do And well, Dark Horse also, I mean, not only did they do comics, they did a lot of graphic novels, books, novels, making of nonfiction books. I mean, they did a lot of publishing. And oh, and you know what else I don't know if they owned it, but they also were the company behind Hellboy too.
Yes, Hellboy is also a big comic they did. Stan Sakai's Usagi Yojimbo was at Dark Horse as well.
Right. So they did have stuff that they published. So again, maybe if you wanted to do something more with Hellboy, they would be the link you could go through to get to all
Yes,
the
but
different ones.
that begs the question: is that Mike Mignola that go through, or did he go through Dark Horse?
Well,
Because
like Dark Horse could be they could be the link, like Dark Horse, whatever this version of Dark Horse is now. They could be the ones like, okay, you know, we're the go between, almost like an agent, acting almost like an agent between all the creators that they've worked with before.
so, Joe, he says Dark Horse would be a potential place to farm IPs. Licensing agreements turn into a licensing farmers. Well, yes, they could do that,
Yeah.
but then what's the point of the comic book publishing yet? Okay,
So
if they have, that's the thing. They don't have to do comics anymore. They have all these IPs that they can turn into other media.
But on the other hand, if you owned all these IPs, and you wanted a place where you could publish them and make them relevant, Dark Horse would be a good place to do it. Like, let's say you had some Joe Schmo European comic that nobody had heard of in your IP catalog. It's like, okay, so Dark Horse is going to publish the Joe Schmo European IP as a comic, and now Americans will get a look at it, like they tried to do with Devil Dog.
Mm. Well, the thing is that as far as I know, they're still doing comics. I assume they're going to continue to do comics.
Right.
The thing is, like Master Panda says, yeah, it seemed like Mike Richardson, for the most part, maintained a good image with the fans. Well, yeah, Mike was a great guy. From what I understand, this feels like an out-of-touch maneuver by corporate overlords. I'm interested to see where this goes. Well, I'm interested to see what Mike Richardson does. My prediction is he'll start another publishing company. That's my prediction.
Well,
either that or he'll retire. Okay, he'll do one of two things. He'll either retire or he'll start from scratch. I'm sure 40 years, okay, and I think Dark Horse is located in California. Am I correct? Probably.
They were in the mid. I think they were in Chicago for a while. I don't know if they moved out here.
Oh, really? I had no idea.
Yeah.
I think they moved to California because they wanted to be closer to,
To Hollywood.
Hollywood. Yeah, basically, because I'm sure with Barbed Wire movie and the Mask movie, and plus Aliens and Star Wars,
They might have had an entertainment office out here, but I think the heart of the publishing was always like Chicago somewhere.
And hopefully, Mike just wanted to retire. Steve Scott says, hopefully, Mike will retire. I enjoy working.
Wait a minute. We got Jason said they are in Portland.
They're in Portland?
Yeah, Jason's a good source.
All right.
Trust Jason.
Look at Sony's owners, Joe's. How do you pronounce Jose?
I'm just going to say Joe's at home. Look at Sony's ownership of Spider-Man movie rights. Sony gets 93% merchandising rights of Marvel Studios' use of Spider-Man in MCU movies.
Huge, 95%.
Yeah. See, part of it also, I mean, there's also other things that are kind of nebulous. Like, they were the first ones who published the Aliens versus Predator comic book series.
Yes, they did.
And that was before any of the movies were made. And people were hoping, I remember people were hoping that would be the story that they'd use for the movie, and they went another direction. It was terrible. But
well, they did the first, I recall, they did the first sequel after the movies with Heir to the Empire, and that was, people loved that miniseries from my understanding. That would have been a natural progression for the sequel series to take, but they didn't use it because there's no expanded universe. Anymore.
But even in that series, somehow Palpatine returned.
Well,
I don't know if you remember the storyline, but
like I said, my prediction for Mike is that he's going to either start a new company, okay? Because let's face it, he has probably 40 years of connections. Okay, he probably knows his Rolodex must be a gold mine of connections that he can contact, to do. Yeah, and or he'll just retire. Who knows?
He knows where the bodies are buried.
I'm pretty sure that's true. So, but whatever the situation is, I don't want to be a negative Nancy, but we could be seeing the beginning of the end for Dark Horse.
Yeah.
If I was the Embracer Group, okay, if I just fire the guy who's been with the company for 40 years, what does that tell you? It tells you that they have either have no faith in the continuation of Dark Horse as a publishing entity, or they plan to sell it, or to get rid of it somehow.
And they don't give two shits about what comic book fans feel too, because we've seen. I mean, some of the companies that have not done well, like Distillery and IDW, they, we kind of saw the writing on the wall with them.
Yes, you know what? This reminds me of the late '80s and mid '90s crash. Okay, that I think we're starting to see a comic book crash. And with the Diamond thing, that was big. Okay, that was the big thing. Is that could it be the slow end? I mean, I don't want to speculate, because we Enterprise is, reliant on the direct market as well. The last thing I want to say or hear is the slow demise of the direct market, because it is a huge chunk of our business. Now, luckily, we have direct to consumer now, and we have crowdfunding, and there are other venues that we could possibly go all digital, which would definitely save us on printing and shipping costs. But we'll adapt to that. Will people be willing to pay to read something new on a digital format? That's the question. So far it hasn't really. My understanding that Viz is pretty successful with their digital platform, but but they have a ton of stuff they can put on there. And they are backed by huge publishing, corporations, so they can afford to take, a loss on some of this to get readers, to get viewers that they can actually sell, the physical, comics later. So, what like I said, I'm very worried about the direct market with, like you said, distilleries pretty much stopped publishing, from what I understand. I mean, Image is still doing well, from what I understand. They're still putting out a lot of books, but even Image, is it seems that they're doing pretty well with some speculator books, but that, to me, that never lasts anyway.
Well, Image has a more of a from what I understand, the creators have to pony up some money to help cover the cost of printing and publishing as well. And then nobody gets paid until, it's sort of the AP model where nobody gets paid until after the publisher gets paid. And then most of those books end up being money losers, but it's a loss on the part of the creators. And that's like after the third or fourth issue.
Well, let me tell you something, Steve. Okay, let's see. Joe says, I'm thinking Embracer Group will either farm IPs out of the company or kill it off as a tax write-off. Well, I don't know how that works exactly, killing it off. I mean, if you really want the truth, they could keep the company around as a tax write-off anyway. They don't have to kill it. They can just keep it running, and if it loses money. But I learned that if you keep losing money to the IRS starts to ask questions. He's like, why are you keeping this company in business if you keep losing money every year? Okay.
Yeah. They'll quickly call it a hobby after a while. So.
Well, that only works so far. You can't keep losing money on a venture without getting the IRS suspicious about how you're doing it. Farming IPs, like I said, I don't know what Dark Horse owns. mean, what do they own? What IPs do they own? If someone can tell me what a Dark Horse owns, as far as IPs are concerned, I would love to know. I know what kind of books they've done, but I don't know if they own it completely. Maybe they could have a deal with the creators saying that you allow us to license your stuff in exchange for X number of dollars, a percentage. But I don't know what what kind of creator-owned contracts they have at Dark Horse.
Well, I don't think like I mean, what they could do is maybe start buying IPs, like creators. Joe Schmo nobody creator comes to them and says like, "Oh, I've got this great idea for a comic, and we got the first issue done, blah blah blah," and then Dark Horse would go like, "Okay, that's great. I'll give you X amount of thousands of dollars up for it, but I own it like 100% or partially own it 100, 50%," and then they could use it for streaming or whatever they think they're
if
going
you
to use
think
it
about
for.
it, okay, I wish Mike Richardson the best. My understanding, great guy, people love him. He's been instrumental, in the health of the comic book industry. It does surprise me that they would fire him. Like I said, in situations like this, most likely they would have asked him to retire or he stepped down or whatever. But this seems very sudden and
It's a very to do it publicly like this and so hard.
Mhm.
That's not cool.
It's not cool. Not
It's
cool.
I mean, just to let him right off, and they should have let him right off into the sunset and say like, even if they fired him behind the scenes, just give him some extra money to say, tell everybody you
Adios,
decided it was
Muchachos.
your idea.
Yeah.
you know.
Well, anyway, that's just something to think about because like you said, Distillery has been, hasn't published anything in a while, from what I understand. I'm not sure about the. I think IDW is still around. They're still publishing. My understanding but they're having financial difficulties too as well. I mean, there's a lot of publishers, going out of business or restructuring or just disappeared. It is worrisome. So we'll see how it turns out. Like you said, I don't know what the future will hold for Dark Horse. But if I were if I was a betting man, I would probably say Dark Horse is probably not long for this world. They'll probably
not the way we
sell
know it.
Go ahead.
Not the way we know it, and maybe not as a comic book publisher.
They might sell the company. Somebody could take the Dark Horse name and start publishing comics and buy the title, buy the company logo, and start from scratch. I don't. Maybe Mike Richardson will buy the company back. Who knows?
They'd have to give him a pretty good retirement. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I'm just speculating.
I don't know if it'd be worth it because honestly, if they only owned,
well, there were rumors. There were rumors that George Lucas. I mean, people were talking about George Lucas buying back Star Wars, but I highly doubt that'll ever happen. There's no reason for him to do that. But anyway, I mean, but who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
I mean, they've run it. Well, we'll see after Mandalorian versus Mandalorian Grogu movie comes out.
I'm not sure how that's
because if that tanks, Star Wars is really going to not be worth a whole lot to anybody, and maybe George will just go like, you know what, I'll just take it. Then he could really screw him over and go like, I'll take it public domain.
Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to just take it off your hands. It's like buying. It's almost similar to finding a classic car at a junkyard.
Yeah.
It is better days. It was probably beautiful and probably sought after, but you find it in the barnyard. It's all, crapped out. It's been abused. It's been, neglected.
But somebody could make it into Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
That's right. They could pull it out, restore it, and it could be brand spanking new again. Who knows? It's like I always said. There's no such thing as a bad idea, just a badly executed idea. So, but and if you think about it, Image is sort of in the same boat now. They don't really, as far as I know, actually own anything. Image as a company doesn't actually own anything. They've been lucky so far, or they've been very savvy in curating their line, making sure that they always have some sort of hit coming out every once in a while to keep them afloat. And that's been a pretty good business model for them so far. But as far as I know, Image itself as a company doesn't own any IPs.
Yeah.
They don't own anything. So, they have to constantly keep putting out, new series, new ideas, new IPs. And if you notice, there's only some of their series have actually lasted over 100 issues.
Right.
Most of them don't last that long. I think
Right.
Walking Dead was one of the few books that lasted over 100 issues. Savage Dragon is over 100 issues. I think 300 issues. And Spawn, 300 issues. But those are the only titles I can think of that have broken the 100-issue barrier.
Well, yeah, like the founding fathers of Image, their loyalty to each other didn't exactly last. Or didn't stand the test of time.
If you know anything about comic book artists, okay, they're, like I said, a very narcissistic, egotistical. I should know.
Okay, if Flint Lockjaw Stephen Reed is listening, listen to what Ben's saying, because he gave me a ton of crap for criticizing artists last time. Go ahead, Ben. Tell me all about artists.
Artists, for the most part, I mean, they're decent people. They're creative, and they have something to say. But comic book artists, I tend to find out, tend to be either, be starting out, trying to prove themselves, or they've already proven themselves and they become, narcissistic, that they can go wrong, that they're the reason they're successful is because their talent is so their idea of what they do, but nothing lasts forever. He says,
right.
Oh man, I love those early Savage Dragon issues, but haven't read anything. He said, what? Okay. Yeah, it's still coming out.
That's the story of the whole comics industry. I loved XYZ in the 90s, and I haven't read it recently.
I was still surprised that Ninja High School is coming out. Said, what? That's still coming out? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I've heard you interviewed on so many live streams where it's like, so are you guys still publishing Ninja High School? And it's like,
are you still in business? That's the one I get a lot.
Yeah. I was like, man, that is not going to be a problem when we do this one.
Well, that's the thing about Anarchic Press as a company is that we've never. I mean, at one time, we were in the top 20 publishers.
Yeah, I know.
We had a pretty good market share during the heyday of the 90s and the early 2000s. But we have, as the market has shrunk, so has our. But the thing is that we own our own IPs. I, as the driving force behind AP, continues to maintain, its existence. Because I'm the one who keeps coming up with the ideas. Everything I come up with, I give to Anarchic Press. So Anarchic Press owns everything I've created. So that allows them to exploit, the IPs that I've created. And that is a big advantage, because if any of the IPs I create actually hit and do well, it can sustain the company for a long period of time. And we balance it with creator-owned material because we as a company like to expose new and up-and-coming talent, to a new market. And that is one of the formulas that we use to maintain, our consistency. Because, as I said before, it's out of sight, out of mind as a publisher, then you might as well be out of business. You have to constantly put out product in order to maintain that cash flow.
Yeah.
And that's just the fact of the matter. You can't can't change that model. It's if you can't make a profit on the comics you sell, then you're not going to stay in business. It's a simple fact.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah, but you're talking about having the market share and being one of the top companies. You were able to, jump off the sinking ship and get picked up by Lunar, even if it was by proxy through Massive.
yeah.
But think of all the company, and you were kind of like in this middle ground that I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Flint Lockjaw definitely will. But you were kind of in this middle part where it was kind of like you guys, Dynamite, Xenoscope, a couple of others, and then like below that, there's like all these other companies that only do like maybe one or two titles, or it's and I'm talking about like stuff that got into the old Diamond catalog, but there's a lot of like one title companies or very small limited like three or four title companies, and it's like those have all got to be gone. They must have been just wiped clean when that Diamond thing happened, and unfortunately they were so small that most of us didn't even notice that they were missing. I mean, is that a cruel thing
Well,
to say?
even big companies have disappeared. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, Techno Comics, remember that? Valiant.
Well, I'm talking about that. That was then, yeah. And Techno, Valiant, Warriors of Plasm was who did
Defiant.
that?
That was Defiant Comics.
Defiant, yeah.
But
yeah,
recently, like Distillery and such, they came with big money. Okay,
well,
I
okay,
remember,
to be fair,
remember San Diego? The Distillery had that huge booth right across from us. I mean, it was
yeah,
big.
and they were gone last year. It was literally like a giant hole directly across from us, and that was where Distillery had been the year before. And there was a even bigger hole right next to us where Diamond used to be. And remember, like I know you guys are like, you used to be like that space where you guys are at was valuable because it was like when people came in the door, you were like the third publisher that was seen by was becoming the main entrance. But now it's like those guys are gone. Bud Plant is gone. Remember, I used to always hit the Bud Plant booth right away too. They're not there anymore, so it's kind of like, wow.
All the old guard is leaving. I remember when
or dying.
I think we first set up like in 1990 or 1991. I can't remember, at San Diego, and I remember the tables were like, if I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was like $200 or $300 a table, which was a lot back then.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, you know. But it seems like a bargain now, you know.
Man.
A spot, can go upwards of $1,500 for a spot. Oh no, actually, can go up to $3,000 or $4,000 a spot. It's
no
very
joke.
expensive.
No joke. $200. What you buy lunch for a family of four at that snack bar.
Yeah, that's the one. We always joke that was the one area of San Diego that never lost money.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, really, it was like $30 for a slice of pizza last time. So
it was crazy back then. You
yeah.
know, like I said, it's just one of those things. Things are changing, and I'm not sure where it's going. And that brings up to the next topic: is that recently, if I recall, let me see if I can get the headline correct. Is that the Supreme Court, or was it the Supreme Court refused to listen to a AI case, from a lower court that said that that anything AI generated cannot be copyrighted. Is as of according to AI, the Supreme Court declined to hear Stephen Thaler's case regarding AI-generated art, effectively upholding that works created solely by AI, and that's the key word, solely by AI, cannot be copyrighted under current U.S. law. This decision solidifies that human authorship is required for copyright protection. The court's inaction maintains that AI-only creations fall outside of copyright protection. Okay, so
Well,
the,
go
okay,
ahead.
the case background is a computer scientist named Stephen Thaler sought to register a copyright for an image created by his AI systems, dicuss. The U.S. Copyright Office and lower courts previously denied the copyright, ruling that human authorship is a fundamental requirement.
Okay.
Okay, the impact is by refusing to hear the case, the Supreme Court leaves in place the legal precedent that AI generated works lack a human author. The
Mhm.
broader context is while the Supreme Court declined the case, the U.S. Copyright Office has indicated that works with some AI elements may still be evaluated on a case by case basis. So we'll talk about that in just a second. Okay, separate legal issues. The ruling is separate from ongoing debate regarding AI training data, copyright infringement, AI generated hallucinations, and legal briefs. Okay, so what does that mean exactly? I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a copyright lawyer,
Mhm.
but I do know a thing or two about copyright and trademark since we're in the publishing business and we
Right.
have to deal with that all the time. So my understanding of it is that if it's a piece of work solely generated by AI, okay, then
Mhm.
it can be copyrighted. But a human still had to ask the AI to generate the material. So does that fall under human intervention? The court says no. Okay, merely asking the AI to make something does not give it copyright protection according to the court. Okay, so that means if you generate something from the ground up through AI, anybody can use it if you publish it.
Right.
Okay, and that there's no copyright protection, which is kind of ironic, But,
Well, if you're the one writing up the prompts, so when you were reading it, I thought, oh well, I mean, some human has to write up the prompt, so that's going to be practically
yeah,
everything will be
it came
copyrightable.
from a human mind. Okay, it came from a
Right.
human mind. The AI did not just spontaneously say, "I'm going to draw something today" and just make it. Okay,
Right.
just,
When that
like
happens, Skynet's going to take over the world. So,
yeah, and that begs the question. Okay, what is count as copyrightable? I mean, the thing is the U.S. Copyright Office sets the
Mhm.
rule, and
Right.
that's all it is. It sets the rules.
Right.
Okay, you can generate anything you want, and according to the U.S. Copyright Office, if you do something, no matter what it is, it's yours. Copyrighted. It's copyrighted.
Right.
Okay, but it just depends on whether or not you can defend your copyright. Okay, and if if you officially register your copyright.
Right. So
So
here's
yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Well, okay, here's an example of something that is sort of a slippery slope.
Hmm.
Okay, um, okay. Do you remember there was like an elephant that could draw, or a monkey that could draw, animals,
Yeah.
that could draw. Is that copyrightable? It's not a human; it's an animal. Okay,
Yeah.
do animals have the same rights as if they create a work of art? Because they create works of art according to the people who allow them to make these pieces of art.
Hmm.
These pieces of art. Is that copyrightable? It's not. Doesn't involve a human. Okay, so it's a machine is making something that's art. Okay, but it didn't spontaneously create art. Okay, if it spontaneously created art, okay, then how is that going to be handled? Do
Right.
AI
Because
does AI?
if I put in a very detailed prompt and said, this is exactly what I want this art to look like, this story to read like, this music to sound like, or whatever, and I put examples of like the kinds of music I wanted to use or the kinds of camera and shots that I want, what the characters are doing and what the characters are and all that. It's kind of like, and the AI generates based on that. It's like, is that the part is that then copyrightable, or do I have to further edit it and by hand go in there and alter it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Okay. The and, the, and that begs the question: what counts as AI art? Okay. I
Right.
mean, we've had programs to do art for since the late '80s. Like with programs like Photoshop, you
Hmm.
know, design and things like that. Those are machines that create art.
Right.
Okay, there's a human hand behind it.
Hmm.
Okay, they didn't actually, physically create the art. They used the machine to create the art.
Right.
Okay, does that count as AI? Is that copyrightable? Yes. So there's precedence actually.
Hmm.
So what is it? All the AI does is make it. From my understanding, it basically does the hard work for you. Basically,
Right.
okay. You don't have to go in and do physically like it used to be. Okay,
Right.
now you have a machine do the hard work. The problem is that the machine borrows from the World Wide Web. They
Right.
everything that's in there, and with lightning speed picks little images and combines them into something that it hopes that you'll be satisfied with.
Right.
And that's the tricky. That's
And if you aren't satisfied with it, you have to go back in and reprompt and redo and reprompt until you are satisfied with
and
it.
that costs money. That's the problem.
Well,
Okay,
but
if it
also
was
but also it's
free,
like your brain is going like, I've got this vision.
yeah, it's not meeting.
I'm telling the machine what I want it to do. It didn't do that. I got to go back in and tell the machine what I wanted to do to match my vision, and you keep doing that until you get something that's close to it. And you still that still may never happen, but if you're adept at Photoshop or After Effects or whatever, you can still by hand go in and make it even closer to this original vision you had. I was watching a video with about a woman from the UK, and she looked like she's about our age. She's no spring chicken, but she was a musician, singer, who also photographer, also did visual arts as well. And she wanted to make a music video, and the theme of the video was like, how much did she have to put into it? How much does it cost in dollars? And what AI tools did she use to make this? So she wanted to make a music video, and she worked with the AI for the song that was going to be the basis for it. And she said that the ideas that were generated by her with the AI were really interesting. She really liked it, but the final music that the AI put out was not usable for what she had in mind. So she took the ideas that the two of them came together and integrated that, and she played the music herself and recorded herself singing because she didn't think the AI voice sounded good. So then she had the song. Then she used Midjourney to create like 100 and some odd images, and she used most of those. But again, like that takes a long time, and it costs money for each image generated. So she
Well,
generated like a bunch of images, but as she was showing the still images, she was like, this was a year, and she did this a year ago. So the consistent faces, it was her face, but it didn't always look like her in every single image. So she junked the ones that didn't look like from one to the other, and but she had herself like in this like amazing gown. She was like, that gown alone would have cost thousands of dollars to make, and it was like a sci-fi cyberpunk type thing. So she had this big, space rifle, like cannon like gun, and it changed from shot to shot, but she was able to make that work for the music video by editing. So she created the still images, had them animated. She used the animation program, had it move. She said if you have it do like complex movements like dancing or whatever, it would screw up. But simple things, this was a year ago, simple things like turning and whatnot, she was able to use those. But even then, because of the gown being so elaborate, if she moved too much, the AI would just like freak out. She'd create like a 5 second shot, and 4 seconds were good, and then the fifth second was like the AOI would just freak out. So her answer was, well, I'll just edit out that last minute and keep the good form, or that last second and keep the good 4 seconds. So she said it took her about a month to create all the music, all the images, and all the video, and edit it all. She hand edited it all together to sync up with the song. And she said that to subscribe to all the different AI things for the video and the music and the still images and everything else. I think she used Kling and Suno and something else. Anyway, to subscribe to all the AIs for that month to do all that, she said it cost her $175. So for a music video with gowns and props and special effects and everything else, cost like only $175 is insane. And she showed the video. You could tell it was AI, but it looked fine. It was totally watchable and very interesting. And the song was okay too. So
Well,
anyway.
that the thing is, I think that the actual label of artificial intelligence is kind of a misnomer. Okay, because just really, the machine itself is not creating the material. It's creating the material based on the data that it can extract from the World Wide Web. It's not actually
Right.
creating from whole cloth. It's basically following your orders. You're telling it. You still have to input what you want. Okay, if it's something that you've either drawn or, let's say you drew a stick figure and you say, I want you to turn this stick figure into an ultra realistic, human. It'll do the best it can with the input you've made, and go by the prompts that you enter. So the question is, what exactly, is AI? Okay, it can be a lot of things. Okay, it can mean, but essentially, what it does, it just takes, data from the World Wide Web and congeals it into something that hopefully you're as a human that you're happy with. That
Well,
yeah. Go ahead.
a lot of people, the AI haters, the first thing I understand their point of view. Let me take care of Joe here. Joe Cobra says, okay, I changed my thumbnail and username. Hope that helps a bit. I think it is full content of just AI generation, and there is no editing of content between 40 and 60%. It is not copyrightable. Yeah, I mean, that sounds reasonable if that's the case.
Okay, so here's an example of where I think this is going. Okay, now when CGI was first introduced, we have to go as far back as the early 70s, when they started using vector graphics and things like that. Nobody thought in a million years that it would go to where it is now. It took artists and humans to do something with the tools at hand to do something spectacular with it. I mean, if you go to the history of early computer animation, it was very primitive. People used it, but it was very sparingly used, and no one really thought it would ever replace human special effects, basically. But when Spielberg used the first full use of CGI in Young Sherlock Holmes, that was an amazing leap in technology. And then when he decided, I guess he must have been impressed by them, because then he went on to do Jurassic Park using CGI. Originally, he was going to use stop motion, because Phil Tippett had created the go motion technique, which made stop motion look more realistic, but it's still, you could tell it's still stop motion, and when he was sold on the idea of using CGI, that changed everything. If you look at early CGI, it was still a learning process, and we're right now on the early stages of AI learning, in order to create art, something that is going to democratize people to be able to create, because now artists are no longer hampered by budget. They can spend to create things that can rival the millions of dollars spent at studios. So, but what does it mean that being non-copyrightable? See, here's the thing. What is a copyright? Okay, a copyright is the protection of a creative work, okay, from being used by somebody else, that's the sole creation of your work. This is to allow that creator, to own and protect and to benefit from that work, prevent other people from taking advantage of something that you've created. Trademark is a different thing entirely. Trademark is the look and feel of something that you own and that is important to the running of whatever it is you're trying to run. Now, who makes copyright laws? Congress does. Okay, I foresee, and this is just a prediction. This is just a look into the future, and it's only a guess. I'm only speculating here. Okay, when big corporations, entertainment corporations, publishing corporations, start getting into AI and seeing the benefits of it, it's all about the money. Everything, my father used to tell me, everything is about money. Okay, no matter what it is, it's all about the money. So once these big entertainment corporations start utilizing AI, you know what they're going to do? They're going to lobby their congressmen to change the law. Okay, once they change the law to make AI works copyrightable and trademarkable, then that is when things will change. It's going to take an act of Congress to make AI, copyrightable. Right now it's not based on the court decision. But the thing about court decisions is that sets precedents, and then all it will take is somebody to either, lobby some congressman to introduce a bill that allows AI generated works of art to be copyrightable, and of course it has to be voted by Congress. And I tell you, if there's money involved, they're going to vote on it. And then when if it becomes law, then that court case won't matter anymore. It'll make AI works of art copyrightable. It looks like Steve has dropped out. Where are you, Steve? Are you still there?
I drank a lot. I drank a lot of energy drink. So I heard everything you were saying. There, on the flip side of it, though, there's a program that just came out called, what was it, like C Dance or C something?
Yeah,
and
that's very hot right now. I've seen.
Yeah, and so
you can still tell that it's AI generated.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's getting pretty close.
There were videos of like the MCU and Pikachu and Harry Potter people, and
see, I think that's the main thing is AI using IPs that don't belong to the people generating this stuff.
Right, which to me that's fair. That's fair that the C Dance 2.0 says Retro Days. Hey, Retro Days! Everybody get Cryptid Core when it comes out. It's freaking awesome. And check out Retro Days' YouTube channel. That's freaking awesome too. It's got some good art down memory lane. So the C Dance stuff had it was a bunch of, I mean, to get everybody's attention, because everybody knows what those IPs are. They would make these like demo video, just regular people were making demo videos of MCU characters and Harry Potter characters fighting Godzilla and stuff like that. And that was pretty cool. And there's one I sent you where it looks like an old Shaw Brothers kung fu movie, and it's like a guy basically fighting a ninja cat, which I thought was hilarious. So, but the I saw one. I think it was by again not in
why don't we show an example of it? I mean,
because we're going to boomer.
If they're not copyrightable, we can do whatever.
No, because you're going to boomer around with the linking.
Look,
Wait until you master the art of the link.
I think I got it.
All right.
Let's see if we can make this
You're
work.
from the cat.
Okay.
I love that cat one, man.
All right, so let's just pick one sea dance video and see what we can come.
Yeah, there's no sound. So we can talk over it since there's no sound. See, this is exactly the problem. The problem that the studios are going to have is this is exactly what the fans wanted to see in the first place. They wanted to see The Rock as Black Adam fighting actual Shazam, but Dwayne Johnson got in the way, and there's Elon Musk versus.
But that's scary. Okay, look, if you were to do that the traditional methods, that would have cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars just for that few seconds that we just watched there.
Just to pay the actors.
Okay, I mean, not to include the special effects.
Right.
I mean, it is.
Oh, it's One Punch Man versus. Is that One Punch Man or is that?
I mean, it's freaking incredible.
Right.
What they managed to do.
All right. Well, you don't want to get demonetized or a copyright strike. Believe it or not, even though technically you shouldn't get copyright strikes, you might get copyright strikes. So just.
We get the
idea.
It's not copyrightable. So
well, we'll see.
Well,
You get
the idea. Okay.
This ties into two arguments against AI that the comic book industry. I think the comic book industry has more AI haters than almost anything else. Like
wasn't there I think a couple of years ago there was a Kickstarter project that actually was an AI generated comic. I can't remember the title, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was one.
I think I remember that too. So
go ahead.
Okay. So comics and books, the book industry is very. I mean, they use this couched language about AI, but and I understand the arguments against. What happened with the book industry one was that there was a pretty well-known YA author who writes for teenagers who had a fantasy series, and they were going to use AI to create the audiobooks, and then this chatbot where you could interact with characters from the story and you get responses written in the way the characters speak in the book. And then there was going to be illustrations, but all the illustrations were like AI generated art. And for the sake of argument, for the sake of people just to listen to what I have to say, I will say AI generated imagery, because some people just freak out and go like, well, that's not art. And it's like, okay, if you have to say AI generated imagery, I will say AI generated imagery.
All right, well, you bring up an interesting one. Retro Day says we use Vidu QT for some animated shorts that show the inner workings of Eddie, just to tell a side story visually for fans. Well, a lot of people are using AI now to do proof of concept type ideas.
Yeah.
And the thing about, you bring up an interesting point, Steve, is why is there such hatred for AI? Okay,
well, I will get to that.
It's a tool like anything else. Okay. And I remember when Photoshop first came out. Originally, Photoshop was just a photo touch-up program. You would take photos and you would touch it up. But then someone got the bright idea and says, "Hey, I can use this for art." And then people started using it to color comics with, and then people started using it to draw comics with. And so is that in the same league? Well, I wouldn't say it's the same league, but it is a machine that's taking over what was traditionally a human endeavor.
Well, there's a ton of jobs and little things that have been replaced by some kind of technology. There are people working as inkers in the comic industry now, I'm pretty sure, who never learned how to ink with with an actual physical brush and actual physical ink, but they know how to ink digitally using a tablet and the pen. Same thing with coloring. I am not a professional letterer in any sense, but I was able to fudge my way through lettering Jungle Comics and You're the Hunter from the Future for you guys using Comic Craft fonts and digital lettering. Before, I mean, I go way back to the day when it had to be like lettered on the board by somebody with good printing skills. And so, and then even in movies, like a laser beam used to have to be like rotoscoped in by hand, hand animated, just like one bolt across the screen. Whereas now, there were programs as far back as the '90s that allowed people to do lightsaber duels, and before that alone would have been thousands of dollars for each shot of the lightsaber duel. But there was like a plugin you could use that does it. So there's a program called Video Copilot that lets you do gunshots, explosions. You just buy the package, and it's you can make a action movie with that stuff. The problem is, like with AI, everybody who's ever used that package knows that package and can tell when you've used that package for your low budget movie. So sometimes that takes people out. It's like, oh, that's just Video Copilot, fake blood and explosion stuff. But again, like before, you'd have to have a pyrotechnics guy and a safety guy, and you'd have to, have a stunt guy who could do the car thing. And anyway, so
Well, okay. Here's the thing. Okay, I think people are lumping all of AI into one huge basket.
yes,
Okay, there are different levels of AI use. Okay,
yes,
there's what people term as AI slop. Okay, anything there's these people out. There are people out there who are staunchly anti AI in any form or shape.
right,
And I've learned that if you're taking that kind of position, then I think that's almost irrational. Okay,
right,
because anything that's useful, and that's the problem with AI. It's useful.
hmm,
Okay, it's be one thing. It's not like NFTs, which are useless. Okay,
right,
NFTs are useless. All it is a scam.
yeah,
Okay, it always
it's a
has
fun,
been, always will be.
right,
Okay, but AI is useful. Okay,
hmm,
because you can actually entertain people with it. You can create scenes, and you can create situations that you can never do before. Okay, and at a fraction of the cost. I mean, it used to be you had, if you wanted to recreate something, you had to start from scratch, and you had to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to get the product you wanted. Okay,
right,
the thing is that I can understand people's dislike of AI. Okay, and there's
yeah,
nothing wrong with that if you don't want to support it. You have every
right,
right to not support anything that's generated. You don't have to give them anything.
right,
Okay, most of these things that are being generated are for free.
yeah,
Okay, there's no expectation of payment. Okay, and
right,
that's what I understand. There are people out there who I will deem AI artists. Okay,
hmm,
that may be an oxymoron. Okay, but it does take some skill. It does take some human ingenuity to actually master AI creation. Okay, if you look at a lot of the AI stuff, you can tell who's the amateur and who's the professional. I
there
mean, there are
there is,
people out there who have mastered the art of using AI, and they've created things that are just almost indistinguishable, from human made special effects or human made material.
right.
It's
Well,
getting to that point.
so so you're right. They call it AI slop, and yes, there's a lot of AI slop out there. but there's also a lot of human slop out there too. I mean, for every video of an AI generated capybara dancing, which I will watch hours of that kind of crap. There's videos of just somebody in their car talking about shit, So, um, but we're getting to why the hate. We will come across why the hate. But
Well, let's
you're
catch up
right.
on some of these.
There's that.
Hold on, before you go, let's catch up on some
Let
of these.
me.
Okay, go ahead.
I will do the read. Okay, so Joe Cobra says Photoshop was hated as it was believed it would kill off traditional art skills. I don't think it killed off anything. What do you think, Ben?
I think it's made it easier, and it does. I think it does. Uh, uh, it does allow people who can't normally draw very well, able to do something, that they may find it still takes some skill,
Yeah,
to use it,
you can just add
Uh,
some lens flare, and it looks
but
awesome.
it's like any new technology. It's scary at first because you
Yeah.
don't know where it's going, But as it becomes more and more prevalent, it becomes more and more accepting.
So true story. Again with the 2000 AD stuff. One of the artists who was widely created as one of the artists who's widely credited as one of the co-creators of Judge Dredd in the 90s adopted Photoshop, and he developed this weird technique where he would do traditional line drawing in ink, and then he would color it, but it was colored in such a way it kind of looked like a weird mix of painting, and yet the metallic parts looked like they were chrome or they were shiny, and so it was a real bizarre mix that nobody had seen before. Some people loved it, some people hated it, and it stands as a real product of that time because his style evolved from there, as he mastered the craft of working with Photoshop. But if you just like looked at that and said like, "Oh God, no," and just went on this campaign to kick everyone out of your Facebook group or get them off the internet for using that technique, I mean, where would we be now? I mean, look at some of the great coloring that's been done digitally since.
Well,
Look
look
at
at
the great
CGI.
digital painting that's been done since.
Well, look at CGI. Okay,
Yeah.
CGI has pretty much replaced traditional model making and matte paintings and things like that.
Hmm.
It's become almost ubiquitous in everywhere. And that's just the thing. Does it replace traditional special effects people? Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. But the AI is the same in the same boat. Okay, it's new. It's okay. Let's catch up on some of these.
Well, okay. So Massive Panda says, Steve, I agree with that. Oh, Steve, I agree with that point. When you see it and you know it's AI, there's an exhaustion that comes with seeing the same thing over and over. When I see AI, I just rolls my eyes and scroll past it. So, what do you think, Ben?
Okay, so let's see here. Master Penicillin understands a tool. We think a
No,
lot
what
of.
do you think about what he just said?
Okay. So here's the thing. Okay,
Uh-huh.
most of these AI clips, don't last more than a minute or two.
Right.
Okay, and the problem is not telling a story.
Hmm.
Okay, now that's slowly starting to change. Okay,
Hmm.
I just recently watched short treks, and they're only
Hmm.
2 minutes long. Okay, and but they told a story in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And is that the future of storytelling? I don't know. It seems to be more popular now more than ever.
Hmm.
Recently, I found out a thing called real shorts, which are basically just 90-second movies. You
Hmm.
know, uh,
Well,
and
they're
someone
90
tells
second
me what
chapters they're 90-second chapters of a longer
of a
movie.
larger movie,
Yeah.
yes, but anyway, they're telling the chapters in 90 seconds. I
Yeah.
mean, even 1940s movie serials at least lasted 12 minutes. You know, and
I am fascinated by that storytelling because you got 5 seconds to grab you, a few seconds to move the plot forward, a climax in the middle, and move you toward the cliffhanger at the end. It's like there's
problem-
no room for screwing around on that.
Well, the hurdle right now is consistency and longevity. Okay, the thing is that it's fine to watch a 30-second clip of something. Two superheroes fighting, great, but where's the context? Where's the story?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's what people really want is context and story.
Right.
And once people master the art of storytelling with AI, that's where things are going to start to change.
Right.
Okay,
And the thing
people
is,
are.
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. The thing is that people want to be entertained, but they want to be told a story. Okay,
Right.
they want to be entertained in a way that makes them think. And wants to be entertained and make them come out with a sense of wonder.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is that right now, the biggest problem to overcome is telling a story in a consistent and meaningful format that you can actually monetize.
Right.
Okay, and that once someone's figured out how to do that, then that'll change the game. Okay, the first AI movie that comes out that makes $1 billion is going to change the game. Okay.
Well, I don't even know for right now, I don't even know if that format, like to take this new technology and adapt it towards an old way of storytelling, I don't even know if that's like should be the brass ring per se.
No, it's not necessarily a brass ring.
Because I could see the AI working really good in that real short type of format, but maybe not something where you have to sit down and concentrate for 2 hours. But
well, the problem is stealing of IPs. Okay, right now people are stealing IPs.
Right.
They're taking IPs that exist and making them into their own little mini movies, which, for your own amusement and entertainment, fine. Okay.
Well, okay, so which goes back to the fan film idea. Like, okay, so I saw, when that Sea Dance came out, there was like a lot of the MCU actual, like, it's Chris Evans' face and it's Scarlett Johansson's face. It's like the actors from that movie and all the other actors from those movies. Yeah, that's the
problem.
That's fine for a fan film, but I saw this one. It was like what if the MCU actually looked like the comic book characters? And it was Photon from like the Photon with the big afro, Tigra, She-Hulk looking like She-Hulk looks in the comic book. It was not the girl from the Disney Plus series, and Juggernaut was destroying a bunch of stuff, and it had glitches. It had a lot of glitches, but if you had told me that there was a fan film, if 20 years ago you told me there was a fan film where these superheroes are going to be fighting in New York and throwing cars around and smashing through buildings and using their powers the way they use them in the comic books, and they look like real life people wearing those suits and they look good. If you told me that would exist in the future, I'd be like, just teleport me 20 years in the future. I want to see this.
That's the thing. Okay, you have to remember. Okay, fan films have been in existence since film. Okay,
right.
The thing about it is that fan films are made with the understanding that you're not going to make money off of it.
Right.
Okay? It's sort of like an unwritten rule. When you make money off of something that is not yours, okay, that's where the social contract breaks down.
Right.
The problem with AI is that it's getting so scarily accurate, that they're using the likenesses of these actors, and IPs that are too close to the people who hold the rights to those likenesses and IPs. If they're not being paid for it, okay, then you're stealing from them.
Right.
Okay?
There is. I'm not saying there isn't a stealing aspect, but that does qualify for stealing.
Right. So it's always the same with like in Japan. Okay, I went to Comic-Con, and there's these fan circles. They make comics based on IPs, and technically you're not supposed to do that. But in Japan, the big publishers sort of turn the other way, knowing that as long as they keep it under a certain print run, and they only make a certain amount of money, then they're allowed to do it.
Right.
Now if it's on your original creation, there's nothing they can say about it. You see, that's the big divide, okay,
Right.
between AI that's using other people's likenesses and IPs, and copyrighted material, and AI being used solely to generate something that's uniquely yours.
Right.
Okay? You own everything that the AI is using. You're using it as a shortcut, to generate images that you normally couldn't afford to do. A lot of people are using AI to do animation, to do the music, to do the voices, to do sound effects, and to do things that normally would cost them hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to do. But
Right.
everything they create is their own original material and their own original idea. See, so that's where the dividing line is. Is that the problem is that people are not they're not disassociating the use of AI for something that's wholly yours, uniquely yours, as opposed to AI that's taking other people's images and likenesses and IPs and making something, uniquely, making something unique, using those aspects,
Right.
and that's where we need to differentiate. We need to understand that, like anything, I mean, I want to use the example, let's say, of a gun. A gun can be used for hunting. A gun can be used for self-defense. A gun can be used for killing somebody.
And if
Okay,
you're Homer Simpson, you can use it to shoot out the light.
you can do whatever. The thing is, a gun's a tool.
Right.
Okay, it's an object that's specifically created to do many things.
Yeah.
Okay, it's prime, but the same with AI. It's designed to do many things. We have to differentiate its use, just like we would differentiate the use of a gun. Okay, and the thing about it is that people are not doing that. They're not differentiating. They lump all AI into one, big huge thing that is inherently bad or evil. And I
Well,
don't look at it that way.
well, going back to that YA author that had, where they were doing chatbots where you could interact with the characters and audiobooks and artwork for the story. The number again, AI can help if there's a small market for something. I think AI could be helpful to like an independent person, and to enhance their work. Like with her, um, you know, she probably sold a few. She probably sold tens of thousands. At best, she probably sold tens of thousands of her book, which would have been successful, in the YA market. And then someone comes along and is like, "Hey, let's take it to the next level with some audio and interact with the new technology where you actually talk to the characters." Da, 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 da. But that didn't happen because her Kickstarter got nuked and it didn't come close to making its goal. It got reported, it's theft, it's this, it's that, and so they just like backed the hell off. And she got dragged across social media for even. I don't think she knew what they were going to do, or maybe she didn't understand what they were going to do, and she certainly didn't understand the hatred for people in books and comics towards this technology. But I think some people might have enjoyed using it. So let me get some chats for you, Ben,
Sure.
for you to answer. Okay, so Massive Panda said, "I understand it's just a tool, but I think a lot of people, not all, are just inherently disinterested in these things."
Yeah,
Well,
well,
I
that's true. I mean, the thing is, people who are interested, that's who you're going for. You're not interested in the people who are not interested.
well,
You
I
know,
mean, a lot of people share these slop videos, so and then a lot of people like them, and then a lot of people reshare them. So it depends on the video. I mean, if it's
but the thing is, they're free. Okay, they're not
right,
asking you to pay for it.
right,
And that's what I don't understand. Okay, you have you have the right not to view any of this stuff. You
hmm
know, but people also have the right to view it if they want to.
right,
And as long as they're not, the only thing they're wasting is time. Okay,
right.
and if they're not happy with it, they won't watch it again. That's just the fact of the matter is, and if they're not asking you for any money, then what's the big deal? What's your complaint? I mean, just the fact that somebody still spent the time, to create, the whatever it is they're creating. They didn't do it, they did it because it was fun to them, or they wanted to do it, or maybe they wanted to show what they could do. Who knows the reasoning behind it? But someone did it,
Well,
and
and to
yeah.
be fair, even writing up those big prompts can take several hours, So, well, on the
Yeah.
back of that, Retro Days said each shirt or short still requires tons of work editing, 50 hours per short in my case. So,
Wow,
yeah,
that's a lot of hours.
that's why everybody should look at Retro Days' YouTube channel. It's awesome. Joe Cobra said, I think of AI like clip art, graphic art in publishing. It's cheap, fast, and overuse is lazy and sloppy. I have a thought about that, but I'll move on to Massive Panda's thing. Side note, I'm super jealous that you went to Comic Kit, Sensei. I really want to do that once in my lifetime.
Well, I went twice. I went in I think '92, and I went back in '95. So that was many, many, many years ago. It is quite an experience. Um, the it's not really all that. I mean, it's impressive by the size, but
Mhm.
unless you know what you're looking for, you can easily get lost. There's not a lot of activity as far as doing stuff other than just going from table to table. Looking at all the the dojinshis that everyone produced. I mean, literally, there are tens of thousands of them. There's literally no way to see every single one. At all. That's why they issue these huge catalogs, so you know exactly where to go and not waste any time. But I was lucky. I had a guide, so it was not a problem for me. And but if you were to go there, as a greenhorn, you definitely will get lost in the massive humanity out there.
Say you're from Texas without saying you're from Texas. Which was more fun, the Comic Cat or the Mexican Comic Con you went to a couple of years ago?
I that's okay. Comic Kid is a whole different kettle of fish. Okay, for sheer enjoyment, I
Mm-hmm.
actually prefer San Diego.
Mm,
Okay, there's just more stuff to do.
yeah,
There are panels, more chances of meeting celebrities. You have to understand, Comic Kid is for the fans.
right.
Okay, sometimes you'll see a big name manga artist set up there to sell his book. Usually it's like an art book, or he did some sort of special manga that is only available at Comic Kit, but that's pretty rare, to be honest. And most of the people who are there are just up and coming artists who are trying to make it, you
Mhm.
know, hoping to be discovered. But and actually, unless you like to do a lot of walking, it's actually kind of boring. You know, it is. It really is kind of boring because all you're there to do is just to buy dojinshis and come out with a huge bag full of comics.
But you can't
That's
read
about
because
it.
they're in Japanese.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised what kind of weird shit that Japanese fans produce.
Well,
You
now
know,
you could use AI to translate them.
well, I guess you could actually.
But then the
But
FBI
for
will
sheer
get.
fun, San Diego is definitely a better convention. The Mexican convention was great but I didn't get a lot to do there because I was stuck at a table for most of the thing. So I didn't really get to go around to do much, as far as activity was concerned. But
Before he totally leaves, we hopefully he didn't leave already.
go
We
ahead,
had a
go ahead.
VIP in the room, J Man, who was
J Man, welcome, J
your
Man.
influencers, and I do a live stream with him on some Sunday nights where we pick a cult movie and dissect it. So there I'm known as Ross because there's three other guys named Steve. So J-Man said, "Hey guys, for AI, I used it for a quick font I needed for a thumbnail. I combined it with my Photoshop skills and make thumbnails for my channel, which he did for his Circle of Iron one that I'm on. That's about as far as I can use it. Hit the like, folks. I got to make like a baby and head out. I'll catch us on the replay." And so hopefully J-Man heard that, but I hope he takes the time to
Oh.
listen to the whole thing.
We hope to have you on someday, J-Man.
So
Let us know if you have time.
Alpha Proto says that sounds like a good time to me. Could AP license some of those Japanese manga and translate them for the States?
What does he mean by could AP license some of those Japanese?
He's talking about the doujinshis. Could you? I mean, you did
Yeah,
it
well,
back in the
we
90s.
did do that. The
But
thing
that was-
is,
Go ahead.
yeah, the thing is that when I went there, I had there was a active program by Comiket to want to promote Japanese manga in the States. And at the time, anybody who knows the early 90s, manga was not a huge, it was a very niche market. And we wanted to promote it. So the guy took us to what he considered, up and coming, manga artists, and made deals with the individual artists to bring their doujinshis over to the United States. Now that manga is huge, it's probably a lot more difficult to do that. Now, I'm not saying it's not impossible. There's still probably, I could probably go to Comiket and probably pick up at least half a dozen, if not more, mangas from various creators. The problem is volume. Okay, most of these doujinshis don't have that many issues made. The thing about the mangas you're seeing is that they've got literally huge numbers of volumes that they can reprint. Most likely, if we were to go to Japan, I would probably find smaller publishers of manga, the ones that are lesser known but still have a good library, and who have a good volume of material, as opposed to going to like the bigger ones like Kodansha or Shueisha or some of those other, big name manga publishers. And that's what we did. Also, we went to the smaller publishers and looked at their catalog, and sometimes we got lucky. We picked up Ixer One and Vampire Mew, and things like that. So it is possible. It's just a matter of will and money.
How did how many issues of doujinshi did you publish back in the day? 4.
Mhm.
And why wasn't there? What was it? Low sales, or did the rights?
No, sales were great. The problem is that we didn't have permission to do it.
Well, wait. Did you not
This
have
is my
permission?
logic. Okay, this is my logic. Okay, first, technically, the doujinshis were, not supposed to be. They were not licensed. Okay, at all.
Yeah.
So I assumed that it was fine to do it here in the States because copyright laws here are different. Okay, and I figured that it was a way. This was considered sort of like educational. Okay,
Yeah.
so I wanted to promote, the idea of doujinshis here in the States by reprinting what I considered the best, doujinshis that we had. And at the time, plus, I had a crap ton of doujinshis that I figured was a good way of spreading, letting people know what they were.
Right.
But we ran into some copyright issues because it was technically we weren't supposed to actually, use. Even though we didn't actually say the name of the IPs on the cover, it still became problematic. So we ended and not take chances, basically.
So you using not that it was Sailor Moon, but just to use them as an example. So was it because you didn't have permission to reprint the actual doujinshi, or you didn't have the permission
Both.
to do a
Yeah.
doujinshi of Sailor Moon?
Yeah, we didn't ask for permission. We just did it.
Okay.
We figured that since we were in the States, copyright laws were different here. If they wanted to pursue but they couldn't really because they didn't own the IPs. Okay, so they really couldn't do anything about it, to be honest. But we figured that eventually we were walking a tightrope, and we didn't want get into the situation where we would actually get in trouble. So we decided just to end it.
Neither the first nor last time. Okay, so J-Man heard it. Joe Cobra says AP was the definitive publisher of Japanese content up until Viz Publishing dominated the market.
Yeah. Well, Viz started out at Eclipse Comics,
Yeah.
you know, and of course, and then Torrin Smith had Studio Proteus, and they went to Dark Horse. Surprisingly enough,
Ah,
a lot of people don't remember Dark Horse did a lot of manga. You know, I
yeah.
think they did you
Lone
know,
Wolf and Cub.
Nausicaa. You know,
Yeah.
they did a lot of 3x3 Eyes, and
hmm
they did Outlanders. I mean, they did a lot of manga at the time. You know, and
Didn't
First
they do?
Comics.
Did they do Venus Wars?
Uh, I don't think so. I think maybe. I'm not sure.
Okay.
It sounds like an Eclipse Comics thing.
Yeah.
You know, but there were a lot of publishers at the time doing manga. You know?
Yeah.
We were not. We were one of the many.
So Rarebit Fiends, who I think I remember you from somewhere in my past. AP localized Jojinshi. I'm sorry. AP localized Dojin was some of my favorite material you published in the 90s. Lots of Bang Ipongi comics.
Yeah, Ipongi Bang. Yes, she was one of the people at Comic Cat. She had a lot of. One of the reasons that we were recommended, you know, by the guide was that she had a lot of material. She was a very prolific manga artist. I don't know what's happened to her since, you know, but at the time she had tons of material. So
Okay.
that was very beneficial to us.
So everyone wants to know, and you don't have to get too far into it, but was she cute?
Yes, we brought her over to attend ACON one when we paid for her flight, we paid for her hotel. I mean, actually, no, the convention paid for the hotel, but we paid for her flight. We provided her a translator, you know, and everything else. And she had a great time, from what I understand. And I think she came back the next year.
On her own ticket?
I don't know. I think the convention actually paid for it that time.
Alpha Proto says, so is there a chance of AP moving into the manga publishing market?
Well, actually, we're still doing manga. We do Motofumi stuff. We did Toshio Medea stuff. You know, we've done
Monkey Peak?
huh?
Monkey Peak?
We also did the guy who did the Adventures of Lenafel and Star Trekker.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so we still do manga. You know, we just don't do a lot of it.
Right. Because I'm only there's one guy who does the translating, but I'm not kidding. The AI does make it easier, but again, that guy has to. Human eyes have to look at the translation, go, that sounds weird, and fix it. So you know, it can't be totally trust. You can't totally trust the machine.
Well, I am planning a trip back to Japan sometime this year, so maybe I'll hit up some of those smaller publishers and see what they have to offer. You know, I remember we went to Japan and we went to a adult manga publisher. And that's where we picked up a whole bunch of adult manga.
Tell us some more, Ben.
Well, we figured nobody else was doing it, so we might as well do it.
Oh, is that where you got bondage fairies and all that stuff?
Yep.
Okay. That was like the whole Venus line must have been out of there pretty much.
Yeah, they had a lot of They had a lot.
Okay.
Their specialty.
So the other question everyone wants to know is, do you still have it somewhere in your archive?
What?
The original doujinshis that you got from the Adult Con.
Oh, probably. Yeah, probably have them still.
All right.
You know, I have to dig them out, but they're probably buried somewhere.
Alpha Proto says, I'm just chilling. And then Joe Cobra says, flipping Japanese manga content was hugely expensive and time consuming until Viz convinced the fans read manga left to right.
Yeah, that was a smart decision, but everyone just assumed that American readers wouldn't accept reading Japanese the manga the way it was supposed to be presented.
Well, remember when you came over once, we went to that digital manga place, and the guy, we met the publisher, or you met the publisher, and he's saying like the Japanese creators did not like Americans flipping their artwork, and
what are you going to do?
All right.
That's you have to accept the demands of the market. You know,
So
but
Joe
we
says,
learn now that we could have done it. I think people would have accepted it, but they probably would have not. They would have been confused at first.
yeah.
But and also you have to understand that manga was not big. It was not a big thing. To make it more difficult for people to read it would probably have killed the early fledgling manga market.
So I went to a trade show for children's writers and illustrators, and children's book writers and illustrators. And Tokyo Pop was a rep from Tokyo Pop was there, and he had like this PowerPoint presentation. He was saying that kids actually liked the flipped version because it made it for them, because the parents were really put off by that they didn't want to have to read backwards, but the kids were like, they thought they were smarter than their parents because they could do that.
Hey, damn kids!
We were doing it before you little bastards.
Well, that's the thing. Every generation wants to attach itself to something. That's the thing. Is that if they want to have something uniquely theirs. Remember our stuff, and kids now they don't get it. They say, really, and that's like, but that's nothing new. Okay, every generation wants to have its own thing, and manga happens to be its own thing. Now, whether manga is it a product of just this generation, or will it continue beyond that? My feeling is that AI is going to be the next big thing. The next generation that's coming, it's going to grow up with AI. Okay, they're going to get used to AI generated art. They're going to get used to AI generated content. They're going to be used to reading prose and news and things like that through AI. They're going to grow up with AI, and that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. The kids that are being born today, are growing up with AI. It's unavoidable.
So also my dad's an older boomer, and he's also very set in his ways, and he doesn't like animation. He like two things. You like, we'll be flipping through Netflix or Amazon to look for something to watch, and it'll be like, oh, this action thing comes up or whatever, and like he doesn't want to see anything with subtitles that he has to read. It has to be, he'll watch like a terrible dubbed version before he reads subtitles, but he doesn't like animation. And it's like, I can watch an animated movie and get into the story and laugh and cry with the characters and everything else. So I guess it's going to be the same thing for this generation of younger people, where like the AI haters are going to be like, oh, it's AI, it's stealing, and like the kids will be like, you Gen Xer instead of boomer. So,
well, like I said, there's a term out there called doom scrolling. I'm not sure if you know what that term means.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's this generation. Okay, that's what's happening. The thing is, we have to learn to adapt and accept the new paradigm. And it's fine to have nostalgic feelings for things that you grew up with, because it makes you feel good. You long for days when you were younger, that things like that. But we have to learn to accept that things are changing. It always will change. That's the one constant in the universe, is things will change. And then it's either adapt or die. If you don't learn to adapt, then you become obsolete. And nobody wants to be obsolete. And that's the thing.
As the Brady Bunch sang, when it's time to change, it's time to change. So
see, that's what I wonder what the mentality of people who hate AI. Okay, because to me, like I said, it seems irrational. Okay, because it cannot be stopped. Okay, it's here. Okay, and like I said, it's useful. And when you have something that's useful, people are going to use it. Okay, and it's not going to change. It's only going to get better. It's only going to get. The problem right now is monetizing. Okay,
right.
we're still a society that relies on money. Okay, until we get to a post-scarcity society like in Star Trek, we rely on money. Okay, and the problem with AI is monetization. Okay, nobody's able to make money off of it yet.
Right.
As far only people making money are the people who are running the sites that that allow people to make this AI.
Well, ChatGPT is losing tons of money. So
Well,
yeah,
at least they're making money. Or I don't know, but maybe it's
they're
one of
not
those things.
profitable.
Well, I mean, the thing is, sometimes when you have an early industry, you're going to lose money in the beginning.
Right.
Okay? I mean, the thing is that there's a lot of businesses that start off losing money, but eventually it catches on.
Well,
And
Amazon lost money selling books for years, but they made money selling information and through investors uh, during that time. So it's a similar thing, but not exactly the same. I'm going to race through some of these comments.
go ahead.
Let's see. Uh,
Oh,
I'm gonna kind of bunch a bunch of them together from the same people.
okay.
So Joe says flipping Japanese content was hugely expensive and time consuming until this. I said that already. Joe also said, I remember AP publishing Ippy Bong Bang's manga. Joe also said, that's right, Dark Horse did publish manga, but only after AP proved there was a market for it. Yeah, suck it, Dark Horse.
we never get any credit for that.
Well, we did here. Joe says Ippy got married at Akon. Hey.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Joe says one of the big early problems with manga was it was in black and white. American mainstream collectors, not very forward seeing, outright rejected black and white as amateur or underground back then, which is also why
Well,
they didn't like 2000 AD because they're
that worked fine for us. It sold enough. Okay, we
Joe
didn't have to
said,
sell a lot.
oh, Joe said I saw a guy pick up a Gold Digger issue, say cool cover art, and then he flipped through it and saw black and white line art and threw it back on the shelf with disgust.
Missed out.
Yeah, I bet he wishes he had that now so he could.
Yeah, I wonder what issue that was.
Okay, so catching up on Alpha Proto, he's just chilling. You can still find a decent amount of that stuff in quarter bins and dollar bins these days. Whenever I see that American published manga from back in the day, I pick it up if it's cheap. Massive
Sure.
Panda, smart. Massive Panda also says, what these younger generations need to understand and appreciate is that despite what they think manga is their thing, the older generations thought that stuff brought that stuff to the States decades before. That's right. Bedden brought Eichser one over.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. Alpha Pro says, I don't like Flash, Adobe Animate animation, but that took over. The people who grew up with it see nothing wrong with it. So that's right. You can do Ayatollah in a blender.
It's true. It's true.
And make money off of it.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is that it's we have to get to the point where it's getting to the point now where I think as someone said that it's like the democratization of creating things that normally would be out of the reach of most creators.
Mm-hmm.
There's things now that it can do that would be just simply financially impossible just a mere decade ago.
Right.
Like for instance, Warrior Nun pilot animation we did back in 1996, 95, 96.
Mm-hmm.
At the time that cost $45,000.
Yeah.
And in today's dollars, that would be over $100,000.
And it's like, what, 30 seconds long or something like that?
Yeah, it was only like a minute long. That was it.
Yeah.
So it was a huge, but of course you have to remember that was all done by hand.
Sure.
Every single one of those cells were done by hand.
They had to take your artwork, adapt it for an animation style, compose the music, compose the sound effects, hand paint the cells.
And all that costs money.
Yeah.
Whenever you involve a human,
Mm-hmm.
in doing something that takes work, it's going to cost money. And that's where AI comes in, because it does a lot of the work that the humans would have done normally, and which you would have been charged an astronomical amount of money to do it.
Hmm.
And I'm not trying to say that's the be all to end all. Okay, there's still something. Um, there's just something magical about something that is done by hand. I mean,
Oh yeah,
you look at anything that's created by hand. Okay, it's truly a work of art.
sure.
You know, the problem is whenever you involve something like that, it's going to be expensive.
Hmm.
Okay, time is money. When you involve a human being taking the time and effort to create something truly outstanding and beautiful, it's going to take money and time. What AI does is creates shortcuts. Now, granted, the results are not always 100%,
No,
because technology is just not there yet,
no.
but eventually it's going to get there, and what will happen then is going to be either truly profound, or we may end up in the Terminator universe. Who knows?
Well, yeah. I mean, I understand those concerns too. But there's okay. So here, so now that we've got a lot of the chats taken care of, here's the two things that I think that I keep hearing from the haters, and I understand them. I am not saying they're wrong, but they're saying it's theft, and they're saying that the it
Takes
you
jobs
part
away.
well, the
Yeah,
theft is the
I
big
mean,
thing,
there are
and
artists out there saying it takes jobs away. You
well,
know,
okay, so again, like if I need a thumbnail for my YouTube video, what am I going to do? Take a picture of myself, send it to a Photoshop artist. Either I spend like 2 hours dicking around with Photoshop to make a thumbnail with that, or I send it to a Photoshop artist who may or may not, that I found on Fiverr because I can't afford to spend more than $20 to get it done, and then they do the thumbnail and all that, or I just like come up with the thumbnail and put it on, slap it onto YouTube because that video is probably going to be watched once by most people, and it'll drop out of the algorithm after a week. So, but my main thing is like the main thing is the theft and the natural resources. And like I said before, I agree that the people behind the big companies are sociopaths, and they're building all these data centers ahead of AI being with a mindset that AI is going to be used for everything. And they use a lot of water, generates a lot of heat. It uses a lot of water to keep things cool. I understand that. But also, I'm old enough to remember when TVs, you needed vacuum tubes to to turn on, and so them spending that much money on the data centers now is because we don't need. They're also they're in the conspiracy fear. They're also thinking that those data centers are going to be used to collect all the data on all of us, and that's where that gets put. And I don't doubt
well,
that's true either as well. But
you know that Hollywood itself predicted the AI thing.
right,
Okay, do you remember a movie that came out in 2002 called Simone?
no,
Okay,
I may have
so
seen it though.
the premise of this movie, okay, um, is that there's this guy who created an AI actress,
Yeah.
and the director uses this AI actress to make his movies, and it's so good that people think that she's a real person.
Hmm.
Okay, I'll show you the trailer. Let me show you the trailer.
But the thing about a lot of the stuff that Hollywood predicts, it's a fantastical version of. Okay, so we can't hear it, but so this is the AI actress being a star,
See,
and all these Al Pacinos out there going,
it's
"Why
like
are you
it's
people
like
taking pictures of my
it's like the
house?"
2000 trailer.
Yeah. Yeah, but see, the thing is, like a lot of the things that Hollywood
I
predicts
mean,
is,
look, they predicted this
yeah,
25 years ago. Okay,
yeah,
they predicted this. Okay, and not like they weren't warned. Okay, that this was going to happen. But the thing was, it was such an outlandish premise at the time, nobody would have believed it.
but
Okay,
here's the thing though, is that they predict these things in a fantastical way, and then the real technology can't really do that. I mean, there,
now at the time they couldn't do that, but I tell you what, it's getting a lot closer now to
yeah,
reality.
right. But I mean, like they show people using computers before, in the 2000s,
Oh yeah,
and
and even in the Running Man, do you remember the Running Man?
yeah,
Okay, they predicted that. Okay, they used AI software to edit to frame Arnold Schwarzenegger character.
right,
Okay, so that goes as far back as the Running Man, and even if
yeah.
you go further back, I mean, they predicted this stuff already. You
But the
know,
way computers are, the way they use
hey, Alpha
computers.
Proto says that episode of Super Friends predicted it. Okay,
Oh, okay. Well, let me get caught up here real fast. I think AI will be replacing most CGI in movies, but it still needs back end content. 80s He-Man was animated with the use of rotoscope films of real actors.
that's
Retro Days says 3 or 4 years ago, I paid $20,000 for a 2-minute faux cartoon intro animation to help promote a book in which the main character was obsessed with said fictional cartoon.
well, I hope they recovered the money back. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, Retro Days. You also Retro Days is the Cryptid Corp person, and you threw some good bucks towards the production of that comic because it looks good. Al Pacino was in Simone. Simone. Retro Days says 4 years later, those three 6-minute or so animated shorts cost a fraction of that, and I edited them together myself. It's a whole new world.
I am telling you, man.
And then Alpha Proto says Professor Goodfellow's GEEC from Super Friends Season 1, Episode 3, it originally aired on September 22nd, 1973, and centers on a massive computer system called the GEEC. I get it, it's geek. Geek. So anyway, so I think I heard that I listened to AI videos, right, where they're talking about what's new and what's up. Um, this one lady was talking about a new thing called a quantum chip, and basically, like when we went from vacuum tubes for TVs to just having a transistor, and it saved power, and you didn't have to have these tubes and everything. This quantum chip is going to be the equivalent of that for the AI. So they may not really need the data centers, but they may also not stop building the data centers because they think they're going to need all the data on the world to collect on everybody because they're sociopaths. But as far as I'm concerned, you also don't necessarily need to use their AI systems because you can install a small language model on your computer and have it just run on your computer. Or you can go with one of the smaller companies that isn't using like the giant data centers. Or there's other options and other ways you can use AI. Also, I think the AI companies might it, they probably they I doubt they'll ever do this, but they probably should advise people that, with all this usage, if you don't really need to make a family photo look like it was done by Pixar, maybe don't use the don't overload the machine with that kind of stuff. Don't use your ChatGPT as just a Google search
Oh
engine.
well, if someone's willing to pay for it, you can't stop them.
I know, but they
Okay,
should. I mean, they could be a little better about advising like smart AI
no,
usage.
they're not going to advise you not to spend money. Believe me.
Well, that, so
Okay,
that
that's they're
that's
in
the
the
thing.
market to separate you from the money as much as they can. Okay,
Well,
if they could, like I said, if they could provide a service that you think is useful or is fun, I mean, look, I mean, people. Why do people go to amusement parks? Okay, they spend money to sit on a thrill ride that lasts less than a minute. Okay,
right,
it's the same thing with this. People will spend money, to create something just because they want to, or because it's
right,
fun, or because they
right,
want to say something to somebody else. I predict that people are going to do AI Valentines. They're going to do AI holiday greeting cards. They're going to do AI, family photo things, where you can recreate an old photograph into a movie or something like that.
right.
It's going to happen. People are already doing it.
Yeah,
Okay. The thing is monetizing that. The companies, that's what they're after. They want the
right,
widespread use of AI that everyone use it in their everyday lives.
right.
Okay.
Because even if they like I said, right now they're not making their money back, or at
Because
least,
not enough people are using it. It's a niche thing. What they
well,
have to do is they have to convince the population at large that this is an entertainment thing. This
right.
is
Because
okay,
Right now, OpenAI is not making its money back with the subscriptions to
not yet.
ChatGPT. But you're
Not
right. If this is like the free demo or free trial, even if you are spending $20, um, if everybody gets in on it, then
yeah.
maybe their cost will go down, and
I
or maybe
mean,
they'll raise the cost. Who knows?
do you remember? There's a service that's been around for many years where they take your old VHS
Yeah,
and they put it on digital format. The
right.
thing is that now you can take old photos, old digital, you can clean it up. You can enhance it so they can talk to you. Okay,
Yeah.
you take grandma, and she can do a greeting. For your grandson. You take
Hmm.
old grandpa's old war photos. And have it. You can relive him actually being there on the front lines. Okay, I mean, no, seriously, you can do that.
No, I know.
Okay, and
No
you can
one's ever
create
really.
family. You can create family movies now. Okay,
Yeah.
using your old photos. Using your old VHS. Stuff. Your old DVDs. You can do that now. And what they have to do is you have to convince the people at large that yeah, this is a memory you're creating. Okay,
And
this is something you
meanwhile,
can pass on to your next generation.
And
Okay, you
meanwhile,
can
Sam Friedman
relive.
knows what your family looks like and who your
Absolutely,
family
you
looks like.
you can. This is what great grandpa looked like. During the Great War. I mean,
Hmm.
see this. You see the possibilities now.
Sure.
Okay, it has to be mainstreamed. Okay, in order for it to become acceptable. Once people
Hmm.
start using it the problem is the ease of use. Okay, most people don't know shinola about using AI. They don't. Okay,
Right.
they have to figure out a way to make it so easy for people who are not savvy, in technology that they can
Hmm.
just prick a button. In fact, they can have a little prompt, a menu that you can choose. Is have your photo, have your character, move, this way or that way. And all you do is click a button and it says, oh, and then it generates it.
Right.
I mean, you could have type in, I want grandpa to say this, I love you, Billy, or you're such a big boy, and it'll do that for you.
Sure.
Okay, you don't have grandpa's old photo say, and you can project on your big screen TV like he's there, and say, hey, Billy, good job on that ball game, things like that. See,
Yeah.
once you get into the mainstream of using AI, that's where everything changes.
Right.
Okay. Now it is a slippery slope. You can use that for nefarious purposes.
Right.
So there has to be safeguards. In the AI technology where they have a little marker or so that can easily say this image was generated by AI. Okay, so
Yeah.
you know exactly where it came from. It has to be a little digital marker on every AI generated thing. Sort of like when you print money, every money has a little serial number so you can trace it back. Every AI generation has to create its own little code so that if you're being blackmailed by some AI porn, you'll know that it's fake because it'll have a
Right.
little watermark in there somewhere, and this way you say, oh well, that was fake,
Yeah.
and then when you're using, I would probably see a law where if you're using any likeness of a celebrity or somebody, you have to put on there, this image was generated by AI, by
Yeah.
law, and if it doesn't say that, then you're going to get in trouble,
Or I mean, if I was creating something like AI for a movie, I wouldn't want the big old watermark, but like for home usage or whatever,
No,
maybe.
it'll be like an invisible watermark. Okay, you
Yeah.
can do that. Okay, it could be embedded in the digital image itself. Okay,
Mhm.
where anybody can, with proper software, can access when it was generated, where it was generated, and how it was generated. Okay, I mean, you don't understand the technology we have nowadays. It's uncannily scary.
Yeah.
Okay, but unfortunately, it's also infinitely useful. See,
Right.
that's the dichotomy we have. A
Right.
gun in of itself is just a gun. Okay, it's what you do with it. Okay, that's you can use
Right.
it, to defend yourself, or you can use it to murder somebody. Okay,
So,
it's the mind behind it. That's the thing.
right. So I'm going to use that as a springboard to talk about the theft issue. So there's a well-known mystery suspense writer named David Baldacci who testified in front of Congress because he was afraid of his book being like he generated some pages of text that using AI that he felt sounded exactly like his writing, and so they fed some of his books into the AI, and then the AI came out with something that matched his style. And he was like, well, now anybody can like write a David Baldacci book and put it on Amazon and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, if people like David Baldacci, they're only going to want to get David Baldacci. There's so many so many of his books out there that even if you've been reading them one by one in real time, it nobody's going to want a fake David Baldacci book. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Like there's enough of the real thing, and if people knew, if
Well,
and
just like a fake painting. No one wants to buy a fake painting.
well, if I'm a David Baldacci fan, I'm going to know which books he's written, and then I'll know which ones are the fake. Anything that I like enough that I'd go like, okay, I know from following this artist that their career ends here, and these other 5 books that are being listed, they can't possibly be by them. They've got to be fake somehow. So I probably won't bother to read them, or I'll try one and probably not like it, and so you don't do the other 4. So also, it's not the AI's fault. It's whoever is creating these fake David Baldacci books. It's not the AI problem. It's the user problem that's making that. And the
Who's
same
David
thing with all the
Baldacci?
art theft thing. I
Who's David Baldacci? First of all.
I said he's a very well known mystery suspense writer.
Okay. What books is he? I'm not savvy with this.
I couldn't give you a title off the top of my head, but
Well,
he's like on par with the guy who wrote the Reacher books.
okay, all right. Now, if you said Agatha Christie, then I wouldn't know who that was.
Oh, okay. Well, the problem is that this guy's alive and his stuff is not in the public domain, so
Right.
that's why
Okay.
he testified. That's why he testified in Congress.
Well,
So,
someone could say I found an old lost Agatha Christie novel. And
or well, yeah, well, whatever. I mean, you could, well, that would be less harmful than to a living writer who's still
yes,
living off
because
the story.
you're taking away his living,
Right, but
basically.
you're not. But are you really? Because like most of your fans are going to want to read a book that they know is written by him, and
Right.
most of your fans are going to know that there's fake anything that isn't promoted by him on his website is going to be fake, and they're not going to bother. But as far as the art stuff goes, there's a guy on Facebook called his name's Jay Piscopo, and he does a lot of like public domain character artwork. Well, and that's the other thing too. So you and I don't know if you've frequented the public domain comic character groups lately,
Oh, I'm
but
there all the time.
yeah, okay. So I've seen you like some things.
Mhm.
So, but there's some people who are using AI to make like live looking or realistic versions of
Create
public
the public
characters.
domain. That's
Yeah.
fine because it's public domain. You can do whatever the hell you want.
Right, but
Okay.
there are people in there who are trying to get these people kicked out. I mean, to me that's like fan art. They aren't expecting any money for it. They're not stealing any money from the creators. It, I mean, just from the top down, it's public domain, so they never were going to make money off of it. Uh, in this case, even if they sold prints of their AI generated work or AI generated images, uh, it doesn't matter because those characters are public domain,
Anybody can do
right?
anything you want.
It right, but there's haters in there that are like, oh no, blah 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 blah, get them out. You know, I don't want this stuff. It's like, well, what if you're a fan of those characters? You can't draw, but you have some really great ideas of like how to alter them or new takes on them and all that. And AI provides you a means to come up with a visual interpretation of that that people can look at and enjoy or not enjoy or whatever, or talk about even in one of these groups. And to me that's gatekeeping. And
Well,
also in one of the 2000 AD, go ahead, I'm sorry.
no. I mean, the fact of the matter is that, you know, it's the administrators of those groups that decide. Okay,
Right.
and just like Congress has to decide on what the law will be concerning AI, and I guarantee you, it's going to happen sooner or later. Congress is going to have to intervene on what constitutes AI protection because these big companies they have an interested they have a monetary investment in using AI, and if they know that they can't copyright, that won't stand. Okay, they're going to do everything they can to change the law, and they will.
Yeah.
Okay, the only reason the copyright laws have changed so much is because of Disney. You know,
Right.
if one company like Disney can change copyright laws, you know, imagine if several companies decided to go in on this. You know, and you're right. Okay, is that I mean, I agree with you, but then again, you know, you just for instance, George R. Martin has not
Yeah.
finished his book. Apparently, people have been waiting for what, like 10 years for him to
Yeah.
finish that. A long time.
Right.
Okay, I will bet you a fan has already created an AI generated conclusion to that book.
Oh, sure.
Okay,
But
yeah,
nobody wants to read it because it's not George R. Martin.
right, exactly. But
Right.
what if George R. Martin himself decides to do that? Will that count? Okay. What if he had AI generate the conclusion to his book and he goes in, you know, and fixes it up? Does that still count as George R. Martin, you know, doing his book?
I
I
would say
mean,
if that's probably the best fans could expect anywhere in the near future. So sure. I mean, if he goes in there and edits the shit out of it, then fair game, fair enough. You know,
yeah. I mean, but would people buy it? See, that's the thing. And
I out of
would he have to
curiosity,
disclose that? Would he have to say, you know, I used AI to generate? I mean, would he have to be legally bound to disclose that? And would it be fraud if he didn't?
he would sell like if he came out if George R. Martin came out and said, "I'm George R. Martin. I've had writer's block for 10 years. I used AI as a co-writer and co-editor to come up with an ending to the series based on the ideas that I always had, you know,
Yeah.
as
Okay.
we
Okay.
funnel my
That's a
ideas
good point.
towards
See,
this
that's a good point.
conclusion."
What if he took all his notes, okay, everything he had, you know, in rough form, you know, put it in an AI and it spit out, you know, a completed conclusion to his book, and he just tweaked it a little bit here. I mean, does that count? Is it any different than like a ghostwriter? Okay, you
It's
know, if
no, because it's George. Those notes came out of George R. Martin's brain.
right, okay,
And
but does that count? Wait,
if you fed the AI the previous books to get his style, and if you fed the AI all of his notes of the stories that we don't know yet, and if George R. Martin was happy enough with the parts of the way the final season of the TV show came out, and just put those scripts in, and then stirred the pot and then it spat out a conclusion, and then he went through and not just tweaked, but edited massive chunks of it to make sure that like it was a solid, smooth, streamlined finish, and said and publicly said, "This is what I've done. Take it, or basically take it or leave it." He would lose. There'd be at least a third of his fan base that would just like forget it. They would be outraged. There would be riots in the streets. There'd be, people
Unless
throwing
it,
just
well, I would think
endlessly protesting online. That would be a
it
third of
depends.
people. But
It
then there'd be
depends.
probably 2/3 of people who'd be curious enough to see what he had in
Yes,
mind
that's
and
right.
read. And if it reads well,
Yeah.
if it
Finally,
reads like the other books, it'd be like, yeah, fine. I mean, is it worse than having a ghostwriter? I don't think so, because it's like, almost
well,
100
the only difference,
pages
the only key difference with a ghostwriter is that you're paying a human being for it. Okay,
Mhm.
I'm assuming that the thing about AI is you're not paying a human being. Okay,
Right,
that's the only difference. Okay, is
right,
that so he would be not employing, but the thing is, if no ghostwriter is involved and George R. R. Martin does everything himself, okay, he still did
hmm,
everything himself. Okay, he did the
right.
notes, he did everything. He had the idea of a conclusion. All he did was stick it through an AI,
And he fed
thing, and
his old
pumped
books
out.
in, right, and he fed his old books in there to get the style.
Hmm.
You know, uh,
Right? I
yeah,
mean, that's another question. Okay, what if you trained your own AI? Okay, you're an artist. You collected. Let's say you collected thousands of pages of your work, and
right.
you pumped it through an AI. Said, "I want you to draw exactly like this, but I am controlling it." Okay, does that still count?
So
Okay,
that goes
that's
back to that goes back to the public domain thing. There is a guy who's done that. His name's Joe Piscopo, and he's fed the AI. He's been drawing for years. I was following him. I was following him long before AI came along, and he does a lot of pulp and public domain, old timey character inspired characters, and he's good. And so he fed the AI like all of his actual hand drawn drawings, and now he uses the AI to generate what look like paintings and sometimes little animation clips
but
of
in
his
his
work.
style.
It
That's
looks
the
like he drew it.
difference.
It looks like he
And
drew it.
and he controlled it. Okay, see, so nobody other than him did it. Okay, it was him from beginning to end. So does that count as copyrightable? See, that's the slippery slope. So, like Retro Day says, I'm pretty sure with regard to art, protection extends to the other way around. So, if the base is your work and you use AI to slap a nice coat of paint on it, it would still get protection. Okay, well,
Right.
I mean, that may be so. I don't know. Okay, the court says otherwise, but the thing is, the I have to read the whole thing, but I'm not a lawyer anyway, so I probably wouldn't understand. But the thing is, it seems like they're not making that distinction. Okay, they have to make that distinction. They have to be more specific because if they just say AI generate, what does that mean? Okay, what does AI generated mean? The court has to clarify. Does it mean no human intervention? Because if that's true, as far as I know, there's been no case of AI spontaneously creating art. Okay.
Right. Well,
Um,
I think, I mean, even by the shaky interpretation that they've kind of left us with, I think that something like what Joe's doing definitely is, it, I think it's definitely protectable. But the thing is, like, he's just throwing. He generates this stuff, and he just throws it out there for like I to see how people react to it. So they're like thought they're like rough drafts, and you're just like looking at it and going like, oh, that's a cool take. It's a cool off-brand version of Doc Savage. But and he's not selling prints, and he's not making mugs, and he's not doing any kind of merch or selling the artwork in and of itself. So I don't. He's not selling digital files of the artwork. So I don't understand why people are throwing such a hard. Well, I do understand why, but people are throwing such a hard fit against this. And the thing is, like, as far as because they say that it's stolen, but let's take a look at the comic book industry. Okay, there's a group called Comic Swipes, right? Have you heard of it?
Hmm. I have.
There's tens of thousands of people in this group. Every day there's probably like a dozen posts. I think it was started to be like, ha ha ha, look at how lame Rob Liefeld is. But now it's just so comic artists have swiped from comic artists since day one, but they're human.
That's how you learn, really.
Yeah, they steal from the
Okay.
best. Everybody steals from the best, right?
Mhm.
That's fair.
I mean, look. You're like you said. You bring up look at comic books industry before even AI came along. You know,
Right.
when Barry Smith first started comics, okay, he was a Jack Kirby clone. You know,
Sure.
when Bill Sienkiewicz came along, he was a Neil Adams clone.
When Mike
Okay,
Mignola came along, he was a Jack Kirby clone too.
yeah, I mean, people steal, like you said, from the best, but then
Yeah.
eventually you're expected to create your own style.
Right.
Okay, that's what happened because you're starting off. Frank Miller, he started off as a Gil Kane clone.
Yeah.
Okay, and he quickly evolved into something of his own. Yeah.
Michael,
So it's
I mean, you were heavily influenced by Miyazaki when you did Mighty Tiny.
it sure was.
No,
You know?
nobody else knew who Miyazaki was at that time, but
I know now.
yeah, they sure do. So,
Uh-huh.
did I ever tell you we literally got a call from Disney at the bookstore asking if we knew how to get in touch with Miyazaki, and I pointed them towards you. I said, "Well, I know an artist in Texas who is heavily influenced by his style."
I remember that phone call.
You got that phone call, so
I got
yeah,
that.
that was
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, that was me.
Told them all about him.
Yeah,
I,
so
you
they
know,
were.
I
Go
even
ahead.
recommended to them years later they should do live action versions of Miyazaki movies.
Yeah, so this was before they started bringing. This is before they brought Totoro. Well, I mean, Troma brought Totoro over first, but that was before Disney brought over all the other um,
Oh,
Miyazaki.
remember Warriors of the Wind?
I still have a VHS copy of that. Yes, I do. So
Well, I
anyway,
mean, like, the thing about
so
it is like
the point I'm making is, so comics writers have always swiped from other comic book writers, but they're human. I get it, but there's other things like as far as like IP owning. Remember when it was like iffy and sketchy if you went to a Comic Con and you accepted money for a commission of somebody else's IP, like you got paid to draw Harley Quinn or you got paid to draw Batman, and I mean, the whole notion of artists who are not associated with those characters doing commissions is a relatively new thing. Because like, if you went to a Comic Con and Herb Trimp was there, you're like, Herb Trimp, I want you to draw me a Hulk, or Pat Broderick, I want you to draw me some Micronauts or whatever, right?
Godzilla.
Starlin, draw me some Captain Marvel or whatever. And it was always like, and it was like, oh, now I own my favorite artist doing my favorite character for my favorite book. And to be fair, sometimes that was a way for the artist to make a little money off of a project that they probably got screwed on to begin with. Like Herb Trimp kind of needs a little extra, after the
But
way
he
Marvel
actually, the
treated him.
thing is that he actually drew those books. I mean, technically, you're correct. Okay, you're not supposed to do commissions or sell fan art of other people's IP, and legally, that you're correct. Now, the thing is most companies look the other way because, first of all, they can't police every single artist who's going to be drawing their
Right.
IP.
But
And
they
it's with the
started doing that.
understanding.
They started looking the other way in the 90s. Then they started looking the other way around the same time because George Lucas was like really hardcore about no Star Wars fan art. No, and then like around the time the prequels came out, he was like, oh, go ahead and do fan films and fan art and whatever. Because
Yeah, I got
he
enough
knew he
money.
was kind of like letting it go, but
Well, I mean, he had to do that because if he didn't, then it would be assumed that he would have lost control of his copyright or his trademark. You're supposed to protect it. You know, there's a lot of works out there who are considered orphaned because nobody protected the trademark or the copyright or didn't
Right.
renew it. You know,
Right.
and that's, you know, things that are not technically in the public domain have fallen into fair use because nobody is, you know, you take a chance. I mean, if it's
Right.
not officially in public domain, you know, if you use anything that's not officially in public domain, you know, you take the chance that somebody's going to come out of the woodwork and say, "Hey, I
Right.
own that IP. You owe me them. You owe me
Right.
money." Now, if nobody does it, then you're safe. You know,
Right.
but you never know. Okay,
But
so
when
you
you
it's used at your own risk. You know, type of thing. Now, you know, you brought up a good point where you said, um, what is it you said? God, I lost my train of thought now. Okay, but
well, let me keep going, and once you remember, you jump right in. Okay. So when you go to a convention, again, like you said, when
oh,
you go to,
now I
go ahead.
remember.
All right.
Okay, there are artists out there who would not draw any other characters except their own. I know
Right.
Stan Sakai is one of them. Okay,
Right.
he refuses to draw anything but Usagi Yojimbo. Now, you
Which is
know,
awesome.
which is cool. Okay, I mean,
Hmm.
if he can do that, then that's great because the character is popular enough. He has plenty of people asking him to draw that
Right.
character. You know, he will occasionally draw other people's characters. Okay, and I've seen him do it, but it's very rare. You
Yeah.
know, I know there's a lot of other artists I know that don't draw any other character except for their own characters. They don't draw.
Knowing Stan, he probably will only draw if he knows the creator and would the creator would think it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he knows Sergio Aragonis pretty well. You
Yeah.
know, I'm sure he wouldn't mind if he drew Gru. You
Right.
know, so but it's like I said, he's one of those artists I know personally who doesn't draw other people's IPs.
You're kicking the table, Ben. I can hear
Yeah.
you kicking the. I
Oh,
can hear you
sorry,
kicking the
I got
table.
nervous leg. And I'm
I
always
know you do. I can see you.
yeah.
So you brought up another good point of like another new phenomenon that didn't happen back in the day, but you see it every convention. You walk in and there's like some guy you've never heard of selling a wall of prints. You know, the wall of prints. You're not even getting the original artwork hand drawn by the guy. You're getting a color photocopy of something that the guy might have drawn, but he has nothing to do with Dragon Ball and he has nothing to do with Sailor Moon. And it's like, okay, that's a good rendition of those characters, but I could walk two more steps in, and if there's somebody selling like actual licensed manga merch, I could get the real thing, you know.
And
But
now people are using AI to create.
well, okay, so now they're using the AI, but for how long? I mean, nobody, to my knowledge, nobody ever got thrown out for selling those prints. Nobody ever.
Yeah, actually, there have been
There have been.
instances. Oh yeah, where there have been instances conventions will ban the sale of AI art.
No, 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 no. You're talking about the AI stuff. I mean, like I'm a guy
Oh,
who
just
drew
to
a
sell fan
picture.
art prints.
Yeah, fan art. The
Yeah,
fan art.
nobody's been kicked out for that. No,
Nobody's been kicked out for that. But is that theft? I mean, are you
legally and technically, yes, it
okay?
is.
So that's theft as well. And
But
then
it's and if they decide to enforce it, you are legally forced to take them down.
right.
But like I said, it's just like just like orphaned trademarks or copyrights. You take a chance.
But
You're hoping
again, like the
nobody will.
orphan stuff, usually with orphan stuff, it's so old and so obscure, and like nobody, like if nobody's come forward to claim money for it for decades, then it seems like worth the risk. But most of the stuff that's on display in the print on the fan art prints is like the most popular franchises right
Yes, because
now
that's what sells.
because
That's
that's what sells. And again, I'm just saying that the commissions, that stuff is the comic swipes. It's so normalized that I think some of the haters are actually blind to this is what's going. This is the comic industry, and it's like a big part of it now. And then the cost. What about a cosplayer who sells prints of herself dressed up as a popular character? How much is that? How much of that is theft too? So I think that there's like I think the comic industry needs the haters need to take a long hard look at the comic industry as it has existed for the past 10 or 15 years. I'm not saying that stuff didn't happen before, but like right now it's like the cottage industry is the fan art prints, the commissions, cosplayers selling prints, cosplayers selling a minute of time so you could take a picture with them. Some of them will take money and like you get your own camera out and you take a picture with them, and it's like, but you're not taking a picture of the girl or whoever's dressed up in the costume. You're taking a picture of like that character who is owned by Marvel or DC or whatever. So
Well, here's
or
something.
whatever rights hold. So
Not
I think the whole flipping out to me like AI fan art, if it's put on Facebook and it's free and people are just saying like, hey, look at my take at this character, and no like the rights owners aren't losing money or whatever, I think it's fine.
well. The thing is, they are losing money. You see, that's the
True,
thing. But the thing is it worth it to them? So
well,
now a
how's the
lot.
if all you're doing is posting the artwork for free on Facebook, and people are scrolling down and looking at it and going like, "Oh yeah, that looks like a realistic
Yeah, I
version
mean,
of this cartoon character."
technically, okay. The thing is that they have to be um, vigilant that their IP is used in such a way that is positive.
Right.
Because people do all sorts of weird stuff with characters,
Sure.
and so they have to be wary of that. Okay, now Lock Nguyen says Anime North here in Canada has been banning fan art anime from their shows for about 5 years now. It has to be original characters. Okay, so we're seeing a trend now of
Yeah.
people cracking down on fan art, at least fan art for sale.
Right.
Okay, of other of IP characters. In the Brony fandom, AI merch content has been banned in the major. Now, I think I also seeing. I think this. I don't know if this. I know. I think I've heard that you can actually license characters if you want to do prints. You have
Yeah.
to actually uh, contact the IP holder like Marvel or DC, and they'll actually give you, a license as long as you, you know, adhere to these parameters. Now, I don't know this for a fact. I just heard, secondhand. So if it's not true, then feel free to correct me.
Hey,
know.
Larry's in the house. Let me do a quick read through on
Welcome, Larry.
Joe's put a lot of stuff. Let me see what he's got to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
What if Ben trained AI with only his art and he hired someone else to generate monthly comics?
Well, that'd be great.
Well, I mean, you'd be the one approving it, right? I mean,
Well, I'd still be overseeing the
you'd be
production.
overseeing it and you'd be taking a cut of the money. So, okay. All right.
I would be honest, though. I would actually say this comic was generated with the use of AI. I wouldn't lie to my readers.
Right.
I would tell them. I would be just upfront with them. But chances are I probably wouldn't do it because I prefer just doing it myself because it's something visceral to me. And I can
Right.
control every aspect of it. And I also feel like, there was a time during the '90s where I was spoiled by Photoshop. I used it
Mhm.
generate all my backgrounds, and I got to the point where I wasn't drawing any backgrounds in my comic. And I was losing my ability to draw backgrounds because I looked at my old art and I would draw everything. I knew how to draw planes and tanks and buildings, and I made an effort to be able to do all that stuff. And then I one day I decided, you know what, I quit using Photoshop to generate backgrounds, and I just started doing it all myself, and I slowly started gaining my ability just to draw things again, So in some fashion, uh, it can easily become a crutch, especially if you're an artist, because if you lose your ability to become an artist, then are you really an artist? I mean, in certain things, I usually use AI for things that I can't do myself. Like animation is one thing that I just don't have the ability. I mean, I can do animation if I wanted to, but then that's so time consuming, I don't have time to do anything else.
Okay, which brings me to another point with your anime. So you've posted some animated clips, and I've seen like 90% of what you've drawn. And in my mind, it's 100% based on your artwork. It's just like Mighty Tiny's plane flying or Ichiku sword fighting or whatever. And you get a lot of hatred for that. And the theft argument is that the in-betweens, the cells, whatever frames in between your artwork and where it ends up, that's stolen from some place. But I'm like, if the focus is on your artwork and what your characters are doing, and it looks like your artwork from beginning to end, wherever it's getting stolen from is so minuscule compared to the
I don't
bigger
care.
project at hand.
I honestly, I do not care if someone steals my artwork for AI. To be honest, I'd be flattered by that. To be honest,
No. I mean, when you post when you get your AI clips done and you post those online,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then the haters will say like, well, those cells in between, those images that are generated from like your first image to whatever happens at the end, Ichiku reaching for her sword to the point where she slashes with her sword or whatever, that's all that in between is stolen from somewhere. And I'm like, well, that's what they call transformative. There's so little of whatever it's taken from. There's so little of it that the main thing is it's your artwork. And there's like a ton of stuff, like a lot of what's on YouTube is what they call transformative. Whenever somebody does like a critique, one of those reaction videos to something, it's like they always show they show you a clip of the video and then they have to like stop it to avoid copyright. They'll pause it and then comment and then pause it and comment and all that. And almost nobody will do a reaction video where they don't show the video that they're reacting to, because that's stupid. Like nobody's gonna like take their phone and sync up the real video and then listen to the person reacting to it. It's like all on the same video, right? And the same thing with fan films that go up. The same thing with just pretty much you name it. The video essays about things where they use clips from whatever. There's the bulk of stuff that I watch on YouTube is transformative of pieces of things that are owned by copyright holders that the video makers share whatever the monetization is with them if they get copyright claimed. And and to me it's like whatever little tiny bit of, like, if you can't identify what got stolen and from where, then I think it's like transformative, which is fair game on YouTube, fair Facebook, social media in general. So and I mean, like rap music is transformative. They use like beats from they'll use like entire beats and bass tracks and sound effects and clips from movies and all that. Some of the, oh, it sounds like somebody's rapping right now.
Well, it's really just about the morality and the ethics, of its use. Okay, I mean, like I said, it cannot just be lumped into one big huge pile. It has to be it has to be divided, into sections. Sometimes, I mean, it depends on how much of it you actually use to create something, from whole cloth. I mean, like I said, I could train an AI if I knew how to do it. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't know Shinola about any of that stuff. I don't know how to train an AI to draw like me. But so in the end, but there'll become a day where I won't be able to draw anymore. I'll just be too old, or I'll be have the ability to do it. I'm hoping that day never comes, but it may. Should I just say, well, that's it for me. Can't draw anymore. But if I were to leave an AI that can draw just like me and just say, I, Ben Dunn, decide you can use whatever, you can use my style, you can use my characters any way you want. I give you permission to do that. And so would that be unethical if someone voluntarily allows you to do that? Okay. I mean, the thing about it, people claim it's stolen, you're taking it from other people, things like that. But what if those people decide to voluntarily say, fine, it's okay, you can do it. I don't care. And where's the ethics and morality line fall on that? How can you dispute the fact that the creator himself says, you know what, I don't care.
Well, the argument is that the creators of everything never gave permission to the AI companies to put it into their data.
That's wrong. Okay, if that's the case, okay, then they should be compensated. Okay, I would think anytime I think the companies are smart enough to figure out that if somebody's art is being used in some sort of AI for profit, okay, then they should be justly compensated. Okay, but if it's just some fan who wants to generate something for fun, just so they can amuse themselves and their friends, I think there should be some leeway given. I mean,
Right.
technically, technically they would have a case. No, you can't do that. You can't do that. Okay, but I'm of the belief, and it's just my own personal opinion, that art should be shared with everybody. And I think that if someone were to take my artwork and use it for something, I would be flattered. I would, I would say, hey, great, send me the link. So show me what you've done, because it to me, it's all about, I'm not a greedy man. Okay. Don't get me wrong. I love to make money, but because you need to have money to live in this society,
Right.
But I like to think that what I generate myself, can make enough for me to sustain my sustain myself. But I'm not going to crack down on every single person who does a Ninja High School fan art using generative. I'm not going to because I know, first of all, I think it's a fool's errand, to go after every single person and do that. And I feel like I'm trying to share, my creation with the world.
Yeah.
I want people to generate stuff using my work as a template, or are inspired to do something with it, because to me, I've accomplished my goal as an artist, is to share, my vision with as many people as I can.
You're unique in that way, Ben. So, well, okay. So again, going back to the theft thing. So a lot of the AI companies took all the data that was out there on the internet and put it into their own stew, or whatever you want to call it. And in a lot of cases, they didn't use or most cases, they didn't use the original rights holders position. But a lot of human artists who work in the comic industry or just in the arts will Google, like, I have to draw a car sitting on a New York City street, and they'll Google that, and they'll come up with a Google image of that, and they'll either trace it directly or use it as inspiration for the panel or the artwork that they have to do.
Nothing
And
wrong
that's
with
true of like anything.
It's called referencing.
I have to draw two pilgrims and a turkey, but I don't exactly know what the pilgrim outfit looks like. So Google that, use that as the basis for whatever they're drawing. So, and the reason they're doing it that way is it's there on the internet and it's free to access, much like the data stew that they created for the AI stuff. So who's stealing? Who's actually stealing? I mean, but I would say both.
Stealing is a matter of perspective. Okay, I mean, it's something you own is being taken from you,
Right,
involuntarily.
right.
That's stealing. Yes. Okay. it depends on your attitude toward it. Okay, if I had if I had a loaf of bread, and some hungry kid, stole it, would I go after them? And yes, technically I could go after them, have them arrested for stealing.
Sure.
Okay, but the human side of me would say, you know, you're hungry. I know you wanted to get something to eat. You thought the opportunity was there. You got it. So to me, it's just a matter of deciding for yourself, what is right and what is wrong. Okay,
Hmm.
and that's the choice you have to make based on your own, morality and your own ethics. And to me personally, okay, there's it's a slippery slope. You have to decide for yourself what feels right to you, and whether or not justice is being served in your opinion, in your eyes. Okay,
Well,
that's
no, I mean the law is the law. So, but
well, the law is an ass. Okay,
well,
okay, people
Judge
can make
Dredd,
laws all the
Judge
time.
Dredd's the
The
law.
thing about
So,
laws, Steve, the thing
yeah,
about
no, but
laws,
no,
laws
seriously,
mean nothing if you can't enforce them. Okay, I could write
right,
a million laws and they are meaningless if you can't enforce them.
right,
Okay, so that's the thing is that you can write all the laws you want, but you have to be willing to go out and enforce the law. Okay, there's a lot of laws on the books right now. Okay,
mhm,
that people are probably breaking right now, but nobody's enforcing them.
right. So, okay, so that goes back to what I was saying about the tracing versus the data theft or whatever. So I Google him. I'm a comic book artist. I've got a deadline, and I Google image a car driving down the street, and the panel that I draw for the comic book is essentially an almost direct trace of that car driving down the street. Meanwhile, I'm another comic book artist, and I need an image of a car driving down the street. So I type up a prompt that pretty detailed describes the kind of car, the kind of road, da 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 da. And then the AI draws little bits of data from thousands of pictures of cars on streets and puts it together, and it's close enough that I can use that for the comic book. But let's say I trace over that image created by the AI and put it put it out there. So one of them stealing directly from whoever took that original photograph of the car on the street, and the other one is using tons of data for what is essentially an original transformative picture of a car on the street, and then tracing or drawing or using that as the basis for their hand drawn artwork for that. But if you say, "Oh, I used AI to create this comic book," people are going to lose their damn minds for one, and the direct trace gets a complete pass, and that's like okay.
Well, okay, so that there's a fundamental flaw in that argument. Okay, first of all, artists before the internet would use reference material. They would buy
Sure.
magazines. They would look for photographs. I mean, the before the advent of the internet, okay,
Mhm,
artists would have literally stacks of reference material. Okay,
mhm,
planes, buildings, whatever. Okay, and those are almost as valuable. An artist reference line was gold. Okay, because that was what the artist used to draw, things he wanted to draw. Okay,
mhm,
before the printed magazine, people drew from life. Okay,
mhm,
they carried sketchbooks. Okay, and they would, if they saw something they wanted to recreate, they would sit down and sketch the whole
mhm.
thing. You know, so artists have been using reference material. For the thing about the internet is it's easier to find what you're looking for.
Right.
Okay,
But one involved, like if you wanted a car driving down the street, what you're basically describing is you'd find that car, drive it down a street that's described in the script, and then sit there on the curb and then actually draw it, as opposed to taking from somebody's photograph, which is their art, and you know,
Well, you're
tracing
not using
trees.
you're using the photograph as a reference. Okay, the thing is that if you trace it, okay, you're still transforming it. Okay,
Right.
because it's not a photograph anymore. It's now a drawing.
Okay.
Okay, the drawing made by a human hand. Okay,
Right.
so that is not stealing. Okay, you're
Right.
referencing it.
Right.
Okay, you're taking it from real life and you're interpreting it in using that as a as a reference point.
Right. If
Okay,
you're
now if you
like a
took the
plein
photograph,
air painter doing a landscape, and
okay, so did you know that in the 60s, okay, both Jim Steranko and Jack Kirby would photograph and photocopy actual photographs and
yeah,
incorporate them in their comics?
yes,
Okay, would
yes,
that be technically stealing? Okay,
technically
well,
it would,
it would be, but
but
the
it's
thing is, they
transformative.
transformed them into something
Yes,
else.
right.
Okay, but
So he
they
gets a
still
pass.
took a photograph from, I don't know whether they took it themselves or they took it out from, because it's never clarified. But it's obvious they took photo stats or and incorporated them into their artwork.
Sure.
Okay, a lot of artists were doing this at the time. And they Marvel labeled it as pop art, but you
Right.
know and look at Andy Warhol. I mean, look, all he did, was take everyday objects and celebrities and
Yeah,
and made paintings out of them.
exactly right. So my argument is that like the guy who more or less traces, I'll gently say, uses a photographer's photograph um, as the basis for a drawn picture. I would say that that's transformative because the artist is going to make little change whether they know it or not, or even if they try to make it photorealistic, they're going to make little changes whether they know it or not. And the AI basically does the same thing. The people who are, and I think the complaint is when people try to get the AI to do something exactly like what somebody's already done. So there were some artists who were saying like, "Oh, I could see my own. I put my artwork up on ArtStation, and then somebody did an AI copy of it, and you could even see like a smear of the watermark that I had put on the original is still there." So that isn't the AI's problem. It's the person who came up with a prompt that told the AI to steal that artist's stuff. That's the human stealing the artist's stuff and and the AI is trying so hard to stick to that they even stole the watermark too. But like if I came up with like a totally like what I thought was a totally original thing, like for me, like I want to do a picture of a guinea pig flying through the sky or something like that. There really aren't like that many photographs of a guinea pig flying through the sky for the AI to draw on. But if it steals from hundreds of pictures of guinea pigs and hundreds of pictures of the sky and hundreds of pictures of capes and speed lines and all that and transforms all of that together into the image I described, is it stealing or is it transformative?
Well, it is a slippery slope right now. The
Yeah,
technology is still in its infancy, but look
right.
how far it's gone in the last 2 or 3 years. It's from its very beginnings, to
Mhm.
where it is now. I mean, we just took it. We saw an example of that with Sea Dance 2.0, and it's only going to get better.
And
You
Hollywood
know
blocked that, by the way.
what?
They blocked that. The videos you saw from that were pre-release. Like the AI is not readily available to the public just yet, but Hollywood got an injunction and blocked it.
Oh
So
well, we're all living in the matrix, baby. We're all living in the matrix.
I'll tell you what. Let me read some of the chats and you comment. We got to get caught up with Larry here. So
Yeah.
Niobe Comics says, I remember getting my first cover from Ben. I asked him, "Where's the background?" So he's probably talking about like when you're using Photoshop for the background.
Yeah.
Um, Larry knows Massive Panda apparently. Joe just Joe. Joe said, yes, when Disney cracked down on Etsy shops, many corporations make it possible to buy a license to sell merch up to a certain dollar amount, but it's still expensive to get the license.
Oh yeah, because they know the value of their creations.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's fair. Just a little bit here and there. Massive Panda says, at the end of the internet, beyond the wall. Larry says, the Canadas of your soul. Okay, I got to do a good one for this one. Niobe Comics said, AP fans gets the Superverse Team Up #1, the highest selling AP comic of the year. Order yours with code 03
I
2
love Larry.
6 MP 0894. Again, code 0326 MP 0894. Let's get the Superverse. Superverse. That's the
Gotta
one
love
with
that, Larry.
that's the one with Niobe and Penguina and Tomorrow Girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Should Jack Kirby's art style be free use, or should his family be able to license it? Where is the line?
That's up to the Kirby family, man. The
Right.
thing about Kirby, the thing about art style, anyone's free to use it. The thing is that you can copy any artist. There's no law against it. You can draw in any style, you want. If you want to draw Jack Kirby style, people have done it, no problem. The thing is that people know it's not Jack Kirby. Okay, that's the
Right.
big thing, is that people are smart enough to know this isn't Jack Kirby. And then you ask yourself, why would you want to draw like Jack Kirby? You want to be you. Okay,
Right.
you want to be you. Artists want to be unique. Okay,
I
they
can
want
think
their
of,
own style. The thing
but
about it, the
but
thing
I can.
about AI is that AI cannot create a style. It can only take from other people's styles and incorporate in their own. The best defense for a human artist is to create a style so unique, so you, that AI cannot duplicate it very easily or readily.
But I
Okay.
can. What I can do is combine two things that things that are not combined very often in the public eye. Like if I said, well, I want this to look like a Renaissance painting, but I want the line work to look like an anime thing. That would look weird.
That's fine, okay, if you can't draw. Okay,
Right.
but if you're an artist who can draw, your best defense is to create a style so uniquely yours that
Hmm.
people can instantly recognize it. Okay, I can tell a Bill Watterson or Charles Schultz or Jack Kirby, or Jim Steranko or Barry Smith or
Right.
or Leonardo da Vinci or any number of artists out there, because every artist style is unique.
Right.
Okay,
But then
no
again,
artist draws exactly the same as a different artist.
but
We are all snowflakes. The thing is that the one thing you can say about a human artist is that no human artist draws exactly the same.
right.
Okay, that's your best defense against AI. Is to create a style so uniquely yours that it's instantly recognizable by anybody who knows who you are and how you draw.
Which goes back to a good human artist is almost irreplaceable. Like
Yeah.
like I would rather have, if I'm going to buy a Ben Dunn piece, I want it to be drawn by your hand, even if it's an off day, and
Yeah,
your character and your
I don't think
characters.
that's why I don't think artists really have anything to fear from AI. Okay, because people want stuff done by real humans.
Right.
Okay, AI is a tool.
Right.
Okay, it's easy to use. If you want something quick, okay, if you're doing something for commercial purposes or whatever,
Hmm.
okay, that's fine as far as I'm concerned. Okay,
Hmm.
but if you truly want a piece of a unique art, okay, that stands, the test of time, and that people know that it's done by something human, then really an artist doesn't have anything really to fear. Okay,
Right.
people will go to Frank Frazetta. They're not going to go to an AI for Frank Frazetta. No.
Right.
Okay. And the thing is that I think this irrational fear of AI, replacing artists is unfounded.
Right.
Okay. I mean, the only thing is that it allows people who normally can't draw to envision, what they want without the use of a human artist. Yeah,
Right.
they'll get something, okay, but it'll be, you know, something that's an amalgamation of different styles and things like that, and it'll just look very uncanny, as far as how it's presented. Now, I'm not saying that it couldn't produce a really good comic, because I've seen AI comics and some of them are pretty impressive. Okay,
There's a guy named Thomas
but
Siaka.
the problem is that they look generic. Okay,
Yes.
they don't
Yeah.
look unique. And the
Right.
one thing I can say about a human artist is, like I said, every human artist is unique. Every style is unique. And I don't care who you are. If you can draw, you are unique.
Right.
Okay, and that's the thing, that artists should not be intimidated by AI. You know, uh,
Because the
that
truly revolutionary stuff is going to still be created by humans. Like you were saying about the George R. R. Martin thing, whatever that final book is, if it was created by AI, it's it's based on a ton of stuff that already pre-exists in the form of his previous work. And then this is like the final one of those. And then everything else we've been talking about, it's like taken from pieces of something else. Now, the human mind might be heavily, like we're saying about some artists, their early work, like Keith Giffen or Mike Mignola, when they were copying Jack Kirby, or Paul Pelletier copying John Byrne and all that. They started out that way, but they eventually evolved a style because of the way they hold their pens and because of the way their brain works and the scripts that they've been getting and stuff like that. They evolve a style out of that. You've had in your career, had like 3 or 4 or 5 completely different styles. Like your early Ninja High Schools don't look anything like the Shidoshi stuff, that don't look anything like the issues you're doing now.
that's
So
because I'm crazy.
yeah, I know. 'Cause
I have
you have the attention span of
I
a
have a short
squirrel.
attention span, first of all. And second of all, I like to mix things up. I don't like to, my mind won't allow me to stick to just one thing,
Mhm.
over and over and over again, because I enjoy experimenting with different styles.
Right.
When I find an artist that I like, I'll incorporate some of the elements from that artist into my own work, because I
Mhm.
like the way this artist drew his eyes. I like the way this artist drew his hands. I like the way the artist drew his clothes. I mean, I'll freely steal. I'm an AI. I freely steal from other artists and
Yeah.
just incorporate it in my own work. You
But the
know,
way you do it is uniquely yours.
yes, I make it mine. Okay,
Right.
that's the big difference.
Right.
The thing about the thing about people, is that we all think we are motivated by different things.
Mhm.
We all have different. No one wants to feel useless. Okay, that's the thing.
Right.
You have no purpose in life, then what's the point of life?
Right.
Okay, if you're just here to eat and sleep, you know, then and be nothing else, then what is the meaning of you being here? I like to think that everyone has a reason to exist. We're all part of all part of this world. And the thing is that AI is just part of a small part, of our ever changing human evolution.
Mhm.
Whether it's good or for ill, we don't know yet. It's too early to tell. We
Right.
can have our opinions, because that's the way we are. We have opinions. What they say about opinions and belly buttons. Everyone has one. You know,
Oh, you're so polite.
Uh, that's the way it is. I mean,
So,
I could go the other ways. What they say about opinions and buttholes.
yep,
Everyone has one, and they all stink.
yep. All right,
So,
let me do some quick Larry ones here.
Sure.
The argument is you are feeding the machine. In 10 years, kids won't draw on paper. They will become too lazy and just have AI spit it out. That's already happening now. Kids can't tell time in a normal clock, nor can they write cursive. Larry, that's just the tip of the iceberg of things kids can't
see,
do.
I disagree with her. I think I have more faith, in the new generation. The thing is, they're changing. They're evolving to something that we're not familiar with.
Well,
Okay,
they might have, they might have a different set
so
of skills.
they can't do certain things that we did, on a regular basis. Okay, is that a bad thing? There are a lot of things that we do now that our ancestors didn't do. Like
Well, I mean,
I look at
I don't know how to churn butter, and I can't wash my clothes by the river. So I
Well,
mean,
look, just look at the way we dress. I mean, you look at any movies from the 50s and 60s, everyone wore hats, they wore ties, they wore coats, the women wear dresses and were
mhm,
always well groomed. Now people go shopping in their pajamas. Okay. I
yeah,
mean, the people change. Okay. We have to accept that. Okay.
yeah, I
We are
can't ride a
older.
horse.
And then, I have faith,
Mhm,
in our new generation. I'm hoping that, my son, Cal is 20 years old.
mhm,
He's grew up in a digital age. Okay, he's gonna have different, ideas, the way things go. He's gonna have different values. He's gonna be an adult that I probably won't recognize. But in
mhm,
the end, I know he's a good person.
mhm,
And he's adapting to the changing environment.
mhm.
I like to think I don't like to write off any new generation because, well, maybe there's some I can't stand, but the thing is, the thing about it is that, you know, we live on one world. We have to
Mhm.
learn how to get along with each other. Okay. Otherwise, what's the point? Yeah. It's just like we have to, find ways to get along and adapt. Sometimes there are things that we create that, for good or for ill, remains to be seen how it will either benefit or be detrimental to us in the end. You know, um, I like to think that what I'm doing is, if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, what am I doing? I draw comics.
Mhm.
Okay, why do I draw comics? Because I like doing comics. I enjoy doing comics. I like to tell stories. I like to share ideas. I'm fortunate enough that there's enough people out there who will buy, my creations in order for me to make a living. You
Mhm.
know, so I don't starve out in the street. Where I want to be a homeless individual. And the thing about it is that I'm very fortunate in that fact. That there are people out there who enjoy my stuff enough to support, what I'm doing in my
Mhm.
endeavor. And that I want to share that with as many people as I can. That's why I do things like, you know, yearbooks, and look at other people's creation and things like because I know that the most valuable resource a comic book company can have is its readers. You
Right.
know, and that it saddens me. The thing about Marvel and DC, and I've always said this, is that they've gotten to the point now they don't care about their readers.
Right.
They used to care. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll grant you that they would write letters back. They would have remember the letters pages in comics. You
Yeah.
know, and that's how fans connected. They used to print the addresses of the people who sent in letters. Remember?
Yeah. Well, around the time that say Roy Thomas took over or took over like editor in Marvel, it was like by fans for fans because he was a fan. He loved all that stuff. Most of the guys, most of the editors loved all that stuff, and they brought in people who loved all that stuff. So, but now it's like, oh, I found you on Tumblr. You ever read a Marvel comic? Well, I saw a Spider-Man movie once, so yeah.
Massapenda says idiocracy is already here. Yeah,
Oh
I would have
yeah.
thought that'd be a
Okay,
documentary.
let me. Okay, let me get. You know what? I'm gonna whip through some of these things here. Okay, so Massive Panda says, "See, I agree with Larry on that. It is concerning to me that certain skill sets, practices, and traditions will become unappreciated and basically non-existent with time. That's just evolution, baby."
Well, I
Uh,
mean, why is that? Okay, you have to remember kids grow up with their parents, okay, or at least some guardian, and they're either not teaching that, okay, because they don't feel that it's pointless or it's, have no value, or they're too lazy. Who knows? Okay, or it's not being taught in schools because they place no value on it. Okay, there must be a reason why they're not doing it. Okay, if they feel like there's no longer needed, there's a lot of things that we used to do in school that we no longer do. When
Right.
we were growing up. So it's not because kids are lazy or unmotivated, is that they're taught to be lazy and unmotivated.
Right.
Okay. Kids are empty vessels. You fill them with whatever you want to teach them, and they learn quickly. The best time to teach a kid a second language is when they're little infants, or when they're toddlers, because they pick up things like a sponge. So it's their environment that creates the adults that eventually they become. We all started off as kids, okay? Every single one of us. So we're all influenced by the people that we were surrounded by, And if the the kids are surrounded by have no value placed on what they learned, willing to pass it on to the next generation, you can't blame the kids for that,
Right.
okay? You have to blame the adults for that because they're the ones who influence them. I like to think that the only reason we have the society that we have is, because, there's certain powers out there that have influenced them to be that way, because they didn't just spontaneously decide that's how they're going to be. You think they want to be that way if they're unhappy? That's the thing is that, and, there are too many things out there that make you unhappy, and there's no reason for you to be that way. I'm happy because I get to do what I want to do. I have a fairly good life. I'm not rich by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm comfortably well off. I'm definitely middle class, and I'm quite content, in that lot of life.
Middle class in Texas.
Don't get me wrong. I would love to win the lotto, but I would only be happy about that because I could do so much good with it.
Yeah.
I could share it with, I could do so many good things with that kind of money. If I and this is what sort of irritates me is that so many um, creators out there who make big money, really don't do anything useful with it.
Yeah.
It's,
Well,
it's very sad.
so here we go. People are doing that already, and not only that, let's see. Larry's previous comment was something about.
I want to know price too.
People are doing that already, and not only that, there are Kickstarters that make money. There are Kickstarters that make more money than us, all using AI cover art. People will make their concepts in AI, mod and tweak them, therefore now has a human touch to it, thus now it has a human touch to it, thus transforming it to something else. Alpha Proto said, that's a good point. Using AI to create what you want is a lot easier than finding it in a search engine. I've done that for photo backdrops. Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like, if you can avoid using the AI as a search engine, that will mitigate some of the environmental concerns. Larry says you take the photo, put it in Photoshop, change it from there, like changing music in a mashup. Well, that's like half of the music made nowadays. So, is he talking about Greg Horn? 15 years ago, people bitch about digital art, called it cheating. Now it is the main way things are done. Obviously, it came in late, Larry. We talked about that at length. Joe says Japanese manga artists often use halftone screens of photos for backgrounds. Want to comment on that, Ben?
I had my suspicion about that.
Okay. Larry says AI will more than likely do the same. AI is dumb. Even the best prompts cannot make the AI smarter.
Not yet.
There are still things it cannot do. Obviously, AI cannot make a comic. Probably it is not that smart.
No, they have been making comics.
I've seen. Well, it's exactly like you said. I've seen some. If if it wasn't a generic AI art style, if I'd never seen an AI comic before, and that was like the first and only one, I would have thought, oh, that's pretty good. But they all seem to use that style, and
Mm.
it's very generic. So yes, I would prefer to see how a human tells a story. Yep, China has access to Sea Dance. China doesn't care about copyrights. Rarebit Fiends says AI cannot invent like that, Steve. There is zero creativity there. Here's a fun test. Try to get AI to generate a wine glass full to the point of overflowing with red wine. No AI can generate that image. That's interesting.
That is-
Naomi says you should be reading all the coded for AP book. Oh yeah. Okay. Naomi Comics is telling me how to shill. Fair enough. Everybody wants to hear me read numbers and letters. They can barely tolerate listening to my shit when I'm talking, much less
Hey, it's
reading.
important to know those numbers and letters. That's so we
Right. We should have shilled a little harder at the beginning, to be fair. Anyone can
we're
still
bad at
use Jack
shilling.
Kirby's style now. Just look at Tom Sicoli. Okay, that's exactly what I was trying to think about. Tom Sicoli's career.
Who's he?
He was one of the guys from Cartoonist Kayfabe. He does
Oh, okay.
a lot of his books are like Jack Kirby tributes. Okay, so to Joe and Niobe Comics, I was going to say, talking about, again, going back to the theft issue, you could probably go on Kickstarter right now. And I'm not saying anybody in particular, and I'm definitely not including Larry in this slight roast. But you could go on Kickstarter right now, and there's probably someone selling a comic with a half dozen to dozen variants, and most of those variants will be this character that they're selling in the Kickstarter that you've never heard before, in covers that are tributes to very classic covers that they're selling like from $10 to $20 each for each variant. So it'll be like this character you've never heard again, Dark Knight Returns cover, this character you've never heard of, Days of Future Past with the characters in the background on the Wanted posters cover. This character you've never heard of. Just go down the list of the covers you've seen parodied and tributed and homaged dozens and dozens and dozens of times. And they're selling those for $20. But are any of those creators that they're homaging getting like $1 for their trouble as a royalty off of this? Obviously, people are buying it not for this character you've heard of before, never heard of before, but because they like this familiar thing that this character is in the middle of. But they're not paying John Byrne or Frank Miller or anybody for those homage covers.
Well,
What they'll do is maybe they'll put after Frank or
yeah, I mean that's an acknowledgement. I mean the thing
it's an
is,
acknowledgement, but you can't go to Starbucks and
well,
buy
I
a
mean
cup of coffee off an
the thing
acknowledgement.
is, artists have the understanding that their work is going to be swiped. Okay, you
Yeah,
know, I think for the most part, you know, but I can't say with 100% certainty, you know, that artists really, you know, don't care if you swipe their if you homage their covers, okay, or whatever,
yeah,
because everyone does it. Okay, you know, everyone, you know, I mean, not everyone, but you know, a lot of artists do it because they are telling you that your work is so iconic that it's worth swiping. Okay,
mhm,
people don't steal something unless there's value to
mhm,
their theft. Okay, you know, and the thing about it is that yes, you are swiping, but you're not swiping them directly. Okay, you're not taking their art, you know, and reproducing it. You're taking their art, you know, and you know,
transforming it.
homaging it,
It's
tributing you.
transformative.
Okay, you're acknowledging their greatness. Okay,
Right,
that your work is, you know, is so iconic that I want to homage it so that people can instantly recognize, you know, what I'm homaging.
right.
Okay, and
But
so in that case, yes, if you wanted to, you probably could come. No one's stopping you from compensating an artist, okay, if you homage it. And you are free to do that. Just like you're free to pay more taxes. Okay, everyone complains about no one's paying their fair share. Nobody's stopping you from paying more taxes. Okay, you are perfectly in your right to do that. Okay, but my father used to tell me, it's the job of every American citizen to pay the least amount of taxes. I mean, that's what he told me. But then, but he also said, no one's stopping you from paying more taxes if you want to. Okay, you're perfectly in your right to do that. Okay, just like you're perfectly in your right, you can do whatever you want with your money. Okay, if you feel that I'm homaging this guy's cover, I should compensate him for that. You are free to do that.
Right.
Okay, you can write him a check and say, hey, I'm homaging your cover. I'm paying you. Okay, but most artists won't do that because I'm, paying tribute to this artist by, homaging his cover.
Right. But the thing is, like back in the day when comics were much more, they would kind of come and go. Once something hit the news, once something left the newsstand, it became much harder to find. So it's kind of like, oh yeah, and things would kind of like leave your mind after a while. But it's like, the image of the cover of Days of Future Past, it's like it comes up in my freaking feed like at least once a week, one way or another. Same thing with Dark Knight Returns or whatever. It's like this stuff is being referenced time and time and time again. I don't need somebody to remind me how awesome that piece was 30 some years ago. But of all the things I've been saying, I'm my main thing is I am kind of playing a devil's advocate. I think I think like all the stuff I've been calling out as theft, I do believe there's a transformative element to it. It's become so normalized that people forget that technically this is a bit of theft. Technically, it's not entirely legal. Technically, um, somebody should be getting paid for some of this, but nobody does. It's normalized. But when the AI comes along, people just lose their shit and then clutch their pearls like, oh my gosh, what is this? But I'm like, it was somebody posted a piece of generated image. Someone posted a generated image on Facebook. They're not selling it. It's free. I know that they're freaking out because part of the reason they're freaking out is because it's normalizing it and they just don't like it. And part of it is there will come a time when, like, if I needed just a piece of artwork for something and I don't want to deal with a human artist's diva shit, I could just like AI it. It's like I need a piece to promote this. I need a piece of artwork to promote this thing I'm trying to sell. It's like, could you do it? An artist says yes. And when can you do it? In a week. 3 weeks later, after their girlfriend's cat got sick and everything else in the world stopped them from doing the artwork for me on time, I can go, screw it. I'm just going to AI it, and you're out the $20 or whatever I was going to pay you for it. And that's how and that I think scares the artists who indulge in diva shit. So I'm sorry to swear on your podcast. All right, so Larry says then people can buy a print of a painting, no problem. Oh, Alpha Proto said people can buy a print of a painting, no problem, but some are willing to bid a ton on the original piece. And yes, there's a reason why the original piece is worth so much more. Joe says this rolls back to my comments in the last week's stream. People want tangible collectability, and that includes authentic origins. I think that's totally fair. What do you think?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I've, I like to collect things, but there's a certain point in my life where I decided that I've got too much shit. Get rid of it. Yeah, and the thing is that I asked myself this question. The older I get, the more I realize how true this is. I mean, when you spend a lot of money on something that's a collectible, okay, and I ask myself, I could spend, $5,000 on an X-Men #1. But once I get it, what am I going to do with it? Okay.
Mhm.
I could hold it like an investment, like a stock, hope that it'll go in value, and then try to resell it, you
Mhm.
know. Or I could spend $5,000 and pay artist or writer, or creator to make a comic book for me.
Mhm.
Okay, and that to me is a true legacy. Okay,
Yeah.
because that's something I created. Okay, or
Mhm.
I paid someone to create, and I can leave behind forever that I
Yeah.
did. That I came up with. And not only do I employ somebody so that they can make a living doing something, I leave something behind that I can use forever.
Right.
And to me, that's infinitely more valuable of my more valuable use of my money than buying a collectible that's just going to sit on a shelf.
Yeah.
Okay, going to sit in a box. You know, I'd rather spend the money on creating something that somebody can enjoy. Somebody can that will outlast me.
Mhm.
That my heirs can say that I did that. I created that, and to me is the true value. Of something. I've come to the conclusion. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I saw an X-Men in a flea market for 10 cents, I'd buy it.
Well,
Okay,
yeah.
but I'm
Well,
not going to
something that's a
spend.
bargain, it's hard to say no. I mean,
Yeah, if I see a bargain, I'm not going to pass it up.
right.
Okay, but the thing is, I have to decide, if I'm going to spend big money on anything, whether it's worth it.
Right.
Whether will I could get temporary enjoyment of owning it, but once I see it, my mind begins to realize this. I just spent $5,000 on this comic. What do I really need it for?
No.
Okay, what use
I'm
of
not
it is to me?
I'm not
What?
big on the collectible, like paying more than the original retail for almost anything. So
Yeah.
okay, let me whip through these because I got to go to the bathroom, and
Okay.
we're coming up on hour 4.
Actually, I think it'd be a good time to go ahead and conclude this little
Okay,
talk. I'm
so
gonna
now
do I'm gonna
let,
do
let,
one more little.
I'll do everybody in chunks, starting with Larry, and then I'll close out on everybody else. If you have something you really want to say, just kind of like jump
Yeah,
in.
I'm gonna go ahead and hopefully I'm gonna do Spy Bunnies trailer. I'm doing some shilling. I'm not very good at it, but I'm hoping that you will be encouraged enough to check out my new Kickstarter campaign. Larry
Hmm.
also has a campaign going on Kickstarter for his Niobe Outbreak #5. The
Hmm.
conclusion to his masterful story art. You should check it out on
Hmm.
Kickstarter. So, and I'll
So
go ahead and
other than
conclude
I
with the
know both
trailer.
other than I know both of you, you and Larry, I don't have like skin in this game per se, but I got to say that art on Spy Bunnies is freaking amazing. And Chuck Dixon did a pretty good throwback to the old timey swinging '60s spy adventure. Niobe, um, I thought it was going to be just like some sexy girly comic, and it kind of is, but it's written way better than I thought it was going to be, and there's a lot to the story, and the artwork's really good. So
It's definitely well worth the wait. All
yeah,
right, so I'm going to conclude it with the trailer for Spy Bunnies. It's on Kickstarter right now, live, and hopefully you'll be a backer. All right. Goodbye, everyone. Until next week.
Bye.
See you. Take care.
I think the soundtrack I sang at the beginning was better.